Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobook. Marvel, get super serum at the beginning. Chapter 21 The Rampant Hulk. Although he thought so in his heart, Dr. Banner still tried his best to resist the appearance of Hulk. You know, before the Avengers appeared, Banner was extremely resistant to the Hulk. Seeing that Banner didn't speak, the bearded man nodded and walked towards Qin Xiao again. He still believed what Qin Xiao said. After all, he looked thin and gentle. I was extremely scared when I was holding a gun against him. Tell me carefully how you two met, what he told you, and tell me every detail. Big Beard wanted to confirm whether Banner was the one who rescued Tony Stark after the break. Anyway, now that Tony Stark has escaped, it would be good if they could catch their people in exchange for some benefits. He has been coveting Baldhead's sophisticated weapons for a long time. With this purpose in mind, he also became softer when speaking to Qin Xiao. Can you put the gun away first? Qin Xiao looked frightened and said cautiously. Of course, as long as you. The bearded man had just moved the muzzle of the gun away and was only halfway done. Qin Xiao's eyes suddenly changed, and his right hand stretched out like lightning. Holding the bearded hand holding the gun, he pressed his thumb hard towards his tiger's mouth. In an instant, the bearded pistol was in his hand. He directly took the opponent's leader hostage. Get out of the way, everyone, get out of my way. Qin Xiao held the bearded man hostage and constantly threatened the surrounding terrorists, forcing them to give up an open space. At least his back was safe. In fact, if you capture the thief first and capture the king from the beginning, you will be sure of facing Qin Xiao. But Dr. Banner is here, and he has no chance of facing the angry Hulk in the desert. We can only use this relatively safer method. Who knew that Big Beard had just been kidnapped? The system voice in my mind sounded again. Special mission released, obtain Hulk's trust and initially gain his friendship. After completing the mission, you will receive a copy of Hulk's mutation potion, improved version. Hulk mutation potion, improved version. Obtain 30% of the Hulk's strength, defense, and self-healing ability, eliminating negative effects such as transformation and losing sanity and anger. P.S. It has 30% of Hulk's strength without many negative effects. It allows the host to build a monument and be a bitch with peace of mind. You deserve it. Your uncle. The system's words made Qin Xiao suddenly say a curse word in his mind. What does it mean to be a bitch and build a memorial arch with peace of mind? You are the bitch. Your whole family is a bitch. First of all, I don't have an uncle, and I don't have any family. The host doesn't have to be so pointless and angry. Just say whether you want it or not. Say it loudly, do you want it? Damn it, you actually let the system tease you. But, yes. Of course yes. If this is the reward, then the risk is definitely worth taking. It's simply the law of true fragrance. This special task directly caused Qin Xiao to change his strategy. I originally wanted to tease Dr. Banner and escape safely. But the current approach is different. Damn. Your acting skills are good, you saved Tony Stark. Big Beard also thought Banner and Qin Xiao were in the same group. But this is not the United States. You can't get out of this desert even if you hold me. We are freedom fighters and we are not afraid of death. The bearded man said bitterly. Yet. Qin Xiao smiled. Looking at Dr. Banner who had already stood up and came to his side, he said quietly. If you're not afraid of death, then are you afraid of the big green monster that can beat you into a meat pie with one punch? The big green monster. How do you know? Big Beard and Banner spoke almost at the same time. Qin Xiao ignored the bearded man's words, but looked at Dr. Banner and said seriously. Doctor, I can help you get rid of the harassment of the military, but now, I need that big green guy to come out. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xiao shot Dr. Banner directly in the chest without hesitation. You. Banner looked in disbelief. He uttered one word with difficulty, and then slowly fell backwards to the ground. What did you do? Did you kill your partner? The bearded man also said with a surprised look on his face. But Qin Xiao didn't have time to explain anything to him right now. She just whispered in his ear, "You said you are not afraid of death, so I wish you good luck." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xiao pushed the bearded man towards the place where Banner fell. As soon as he turned around and ran away. A wisp of smoke ran out for more than 10 or 20 meters, and then the terrorists around them all reacted. 2 people hurriedly helped up the bearded man, while the others pointed their guns directly at Qin Xiao in the distance. But he didn't have time to shoot. A beast-like roar sounded. Roar! The corpse on the ground turned into a huge green monster at some point. He suddenly stood up from the ground, more than 2 meters tall. The muscles all over his body looked harder than steel. He was still holding the bearded head in his hand. The originally tall bearded man looked as weak as a doll in his hands. With that earth-shattering roar, the green giant grabbed the beard and smashed it hard at the off-road vehicle next to him. It actually dented the entire front hood of the car. He used his flesh and blood to directly smash the front cover of the car and the engine inside into scrap metal. 70 or 80% of the bones in Big Beard's body were shattered. He was almost smashed into a pulp, and he was about to die. Only then did the people around him react. Subconsciously, he raised the gun in his hand and fired wildly at the monster. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Dozens of guns were pointed at Hulk at the same time, and bullets poured down on Hulk's body like crazy. It's a pity that even Hulk's skin can't be broken in the slightest. Bang! As soon as he came out, he was attacked wildly, and Hulk went into a state of rage. One kick directly kicked a terrorist away 100 meters away. Then he directly picked up the broken off-road vehicle. Aim directly at the crowd and take a picture horizontally. The people haven't completely dispersed yet. At least 3 or 4 of them were photographed and turned into pulp. For a moment, it was a bloody mess with bullets flying everywhere. Those terrorists from the Ten Rings gang who claim not to be afraid of death. At this moment, they were making crazy screams and began to run away in all directions desperately. The one who was a little less courageous shouted "Devil" directly in his mouth and collapsed on the ground. Facing the fierce Hulk, he didn't even have the strength to get up and run away. Chapter 3 is here, albeit a little late. Chapter 22 Making Friends with Hulk. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you wouldn't know how powerful the Hulk is. Even compared to the comics, the Hulk in the movie has been weakened thousands of times. But before the father-level figure comes out, Hulk is basically an unsolvable existence. The violent power contained in those punches and kicks made Qin Xiao, who was hiding far behind a sand dune, feel heartbroken. In front of such a violent Hulk, Qin Xiao felt that as a super soldier, there was no difference between himself and the terrorists of the Ten Rings gang. If there is one, it's just the difference between 1 punch and 2 punches. System, this mission is a bit perverted. I feel like I've been hammered to death before I even spoke, okay. Seeing Hulk directly crushing a person's head into blood mist in the distance, Qin Xiao swallowed hard. How can you see a rainbow without going through ups and downs? If you can't even handle this task as a host, then I'll send you back to work peacefully as a social worker to pay off your debts, and live a miserable life. Your uncle, you despise me again. How come those systems that people travel through can get 100 times rebate on every purchase, or they can automatically upgrade even when they eat or sleep? Why is it so difficult for me? Not only are the tasks given perverted, but I also personally attack myself as a host from time to time. Complaints are complaints. The task still needs to be done, and the rewards are indeed very attractive. The people from the Ten Rings gang below were killed by Hulk several times. The rest were either scared out of their wits or ran away madly. Seeing that many people were killed, most of the cars were smashed to pieces. I guess Hulk should calm down a little now. Qin Xiao was cruel and stood up directly from behind the sand dune. Hulk! Qin Xiao greeted Hulk enthusiastically. She smiled like a village beauty standing at the entrance of the village and seeing her lover return. Maybe the difference is that there is no floral handkerchief swaying in the wind. Roar. It's a pity that Hulk couldn't understand this kind of style, so he roared and jumped hard in front of Qin Xiao from a distance. Then without saying anything, he punched Qin Xiao directly. When Hulk rushed over, the pressure almost made Qin Xiao subconsciously turn around and avoid it. He finally managed to stabilize his figure. Who would have thought that a fist as big as a casserole would just hit him? So irritable? Punch first and then talk. Do you think you are Wei? Qin Xiao muttered in his heart and quickly moved to the side to avoid Hulk's fist. He quickly said loudly. Wait a minute, Hulk, I'm not with them. I don't mean any harm. I just have something to talk to you about. Hey! I know you don't really want to hurt others. You can't help but be angry to cause damage, right? I have a good idea. While dodging Hulk's fist, Qin Xiao quickly said that he had heard Hulk's own complaints from the Thor 3 movie, hoping to impress Hulk a little. It may be due to Banner's remaining impression that Hulk felt that Qin Xiao was indeed different from the group of people who shot and attacked him. Or maybe Qin Xiao's words played a certain role. Hulk's third fist stopped in mid-air. In the Incredible Hulk movie, Banner should have some memory sharing with Hulk. It may not be comprehensive, but it does exist. However, in the subsequent Avengers, the memories of Hulk and Banner seem to be different. It's become non-interference. Here, I have a very vague impression of the people and things that the other party has come into contact with. Call. Qin Xiao took a long breath. I'm not your enemy, Hulk. I want to be your friend. Can we have a good chat? Qin Xiao raised his heart and stretched out his hands to show that he was not hostile to Hulk. Friend. The word came out vaguely from Hulk's mouth. Then, boom! A very sudden punch hit Qin Xiao directly for more than 20 meters. It just hit the ground and smashed out a piece of yellow sand. Hulk followed and jumped to Qin Xiao's side. He stretched out a pair of thick arms and held Qin Xiao alive in his hands. The solution is to tell Hulk, or Hulk will tear you apart. Just when Qin Xiao thought he was dead, Hulk spoke to Qin Xiao. There are many bad people in this world, and even some monsters that are different from ordinary people. Of course, I am not talking about you. I quite like the color of your skin. I am referring to, for example, the Abomination, the one you have in New York. The ugly guy you beat, do you remember? Being able to communicate is a good start, Qin Xiao said happily. Hulk remembers that he was very strong, but he was still defeated by Hulk. Roar! Hulk's behavior is one part childlike and one part beastly. Speaking of the act of defeating Monk Evil, he looked up to the sky and roared angrily, feeling like a male beast promoting his achievements. Hey! Hey! Big guy, you are roaring, can you put me down first? You are strangling me to death. When Hulk roared, he subconsciously used some strength with his hands, almost strangling Qin Xiao to death. Hulk forgot, you are too weak, Hulk hasn't even used his strength yet. Hulk said as he released his hands holding Qin Xiao. Ahem. Qin Xiao coughed twice and straightened his clothes. Not everyone is as strong as you, Hulk. You should learn to control your power. Hulk is very powerful. Why do you need to control it? You said there are monsters and bad guys. Where are they? Take Hulk to fight them. Hulk lowered his head and roared loudly at Qin Xiao, the sound making Qin Xiao's ears buzz. I have to find monsters and bad guys first, Hulk. We need some information. Bad guys will not automatically appear in front of us. Take Hulk to find him. Go now. Another roar. No, no, no. The bad guys are far away and we need to take a plane. Do you know about planes? The Hulk is too big to fly. You have to become Banner first. Airplane. Hulk muttered. I don't know if he recalled some bad memories, such as the military's attack on his helicopter. Hulk hates airplanes, and Hulk hates Banner even more. Hulk doesn't want to become Banner, no. Hulk clenched his fists again and was about to go berserk again. I know, listen to me, I don't like Banner either. That guy is very arrogant when he talks. But we need Banner's help, right? Whether he's looking for bad guys or going out on a daily basis, Banner is more convenient than Hulk, right? Just like facing a naughty child who didn't know the world, Qin Xiao slowly began to try to talk some truths and conditions with Hulk. The first chapter is here, and there will be another chapter each in the afternoon and evening. Chapter 23 Nick Fury. Although Nick Fury always acts like only he can save the world, he also hides too many unknown secrets. But he still has a very outstanding advantage, that is, he is decisive and has the courage to take responsibility. After receiving reports from Hawkeye and Black Widow, I don't know what methods Nick Fury used, or what deal he reached. Soon, a Quinjet landed at a US military base in Afghanistan. What came with the pilot was a pass allowing entry into Pakistan. Of course, it's limited to Shield's plane, and military soldiers are prohibited from entering. Of course Black Widow and Hawkeye had to follow. Originally, Rhodes was trying to stop Tony Stark, but Tony was too determined. Plus there are side shots from Black Widow and Hawkeye. In the end, there was no choice but to come along. Along the way, Hawkeye kicked the pilot straight out of the driver's seat, forcibly driving the Quinjet into a helicopter style. It was almost a close-to-the-ground reconnaissance along the desert. Finally, I found the traces of the bearded motorcade along the way, and followed them to the place where Qin Xiao was stopped. What's going on here? When they got off the plane, a group of people were shocked and speechless by the scene in front of them. The traces of Hulk's battle were simply a disaster scene. Broken limbs and arms, off-road vehicles that had been dismantled into parts, and bullet casings all over the ground. It all means that some horrific battles took place in this place. Tony, your fighting teacher did this? Are you sure he needs us to rescue him? Rhodes looked at everything in front of him with shock on his face. This doesn't look like Qin Nang left it. It looks more like King Kong has come. Black Widow is also confused. Others may not know what the destructive power of a super soldier is, but S.H.I.E.L.D. knows it quite well. After the successful transformation of the US team, the physical data has been retained by Peggy Carter and Howard Stark. It's still in S.H.I.E.L.D's secret files. Hey! I'm here. When everyone was speculating in their minds about what happened, Qin Xiao didn't know when he emerged from the back of a sand dune. He waved to everyone. Seeing Qin Xiao come out, several people quickly ran towards the sand dune. After finally getting up to the sand dune, I saw Qin Xiao looking as if nothing had happened, and then there was a man lying on the ground on the back of the dune. A naked man. You found true love here. Tony was in a good mood when he saw that Qin Xiao was fine, and teased with a smile. But when Black Widow and Hawkeye saw Bruce Banner, their expressions changed immediately. Bruce Banner? Qin, why is he here? You knocked him out? I'm not talking about him on the ground. No, I did meet him, I just made friends with him. Qin Xiao smiled slightly and said to the Black Widow. Qin Xiao was in a very good mood at the moment, and the mission had been successfully completed, if Black Widow and the others hadn't come over. He had already drank the bottle of glowing green serum in his pocket. God knows how much saliva he spent to get the Hulk down. Not only did he promise that he would take him to fight monsters, but he also had to promise that Dr. Banner would let him out for a walk from time to time. If Banner doesn't agree to your promise, just beat him to death and I can come out. Remember, don't lie to the Hulk. Otherwise I'll tear you apart. These were the last words Hulk, a naughty kid, said to Qin Xiao. I originally came here to save Tony, but I didn't expect to end up with a Banner. For a nuclear weapon level figure like Hulk, S.H.I.E.L.D. would naturally not dare to let him go back on a military plane. So Tony could only go back with Rhodes, while the rest of them directly chose to fly back to the United States in Quinjet fighters. Nick Fury is waiting to see Qin Xiao in a secret base. "Qin, let's talk after we get back and have a drink." Tony had a lot of questions about Qin Xiao, but he also knew that this was not the place to talk. Before leaving, he told Qin Xiao, "Go back and have a good physical checkup." Qin Xiao smiled slightly, knocked on the reactor on Tony's chest and said with a smile, "New York is one of the largest cities in the world. It is also the famous city of destruction in American movies, where superheroes and villains gather. How could there be no SHIELD branch in this city? But no one knows, except for the apparent distribution. Nick Fury also has a secret base here. This secret base, which few people within SHIELD know about, is actually under the Hudson River." Following Hawkeye and Black Widow, they entered an abandoned subway pipe from the subway line. After twisting and turning for a long time, we entered an abandoned sewer pipe, and then went around several times. Only then did he enter this secret base through a secret portal. It is close to the mouth of the Hudson River. In the lobby of the base, Qin Xiao even saw a huge floor-to-ceiling window, and outside was the bottom of the Hudson River. Not only could he see the river, Qin Xiao could also see several freshwater fish flowing along the river. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, standing was none other than director Liu Dan from Marvel. He was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in his classic cool posture, leaving the back of his head bald. "Aren't you afraid that people will discover this base? Not only did you open the window, but the underwater searchlight is still on outside." Qin Xiao ignored the cool braised egg and asked, "This is the floor-to-ceiling window. First of all, it looks like a concrete slab from the outside. You can ask your good friend Stark for technical questions. As for the lighting, there are many reasons to explain it." Nick Fury turned around slowly. One eye was fixed on Qin Xiao. He reached out and picked up a stack of documents from the desk and threw it to Qin Xiao and said, "The most important thing is that it's us, not you. Welcome to join S.H.I.E.L.D., Super Soldier Mr. Qin." Qin Xiao took the file and opened it to see that it was his own information. And the identity given to him by S.H.I.E.L.D., agent, trainee agent? Am I reading that correctly? As far as I know, your agents range from level 1 to level 10. The director is the only level 10. I never knew there was such a thing as an internship. This is a new position created for you by Director Fury. The report shows that there is no problem with your position, but your personality is not very suitable for working in the intelligence department. We need to examine it for a period of time." Black Widow came to Qin Xiao and explained. "What report?" "Psychological evaluation and personality analysis report. In addition, this report was written by me." Black Widow smiled and took away the document in Qin Xiao's hand, and formally introduced Qin Xiao. "Nick Fury, Director of the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency, my boss, and of course yours from now on." Chapter 2, there is another chapter at 8:30 p.m. Chapter 24 Hulk Serum. Qin Xiao rolled his eyes helplessly and said lazily, "Hello, Mr. Director, I want to ask you. When we came in just now, you were standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window like this." Qin Xiao assumed the same posture as Nick Fury's back to everyone just now, with his hands behind his back. "Are you standing here waiting for us in this posture, or do you have some surveillance system hidden here? You only suddenly put on this cold look when we got to the door." Nick Fury. All in all, meeting Nick Fury was overall a pleasure. Secondly, when Qin Xiao was asked to join S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury had no intention of letting him enter S.H.I.E.L.D. normally. Instead, he used a certificate to restrain Qin Xiao first, ensuring that when the Avengers plan starts in the future, Qin Xiao will join first. As for Dr. Banner, after initial communication with Nick Fury, he used his own private resources to place him in a mountain forest in northern Canada. The place is deserted and the scenery is beautiful. Even if he transforms into Hulk, there is enough place for him to go out and run wild from time to time. Nick Fury provided a laboratory there for Dr. Banner to continue his research. A large number of S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel were also placed on the periphery to ensure that Dr. Banner would not be disturbed by others. Or maybe it's to make sure Hulk doesn't go out and disturb others. After settling the dispute with S.H.I.E.L.D., Qin Xiao did not return to Los Angeles to find Tony. Instead, I found a hotel in New York and stayed there. He was going to take the Hulk's serum first. I consulted the system before, and the process of taking the serum will only cause slight pain. But it may be that along with the transformation, the body will excrete a large amount of impurities, blood, and even bone marrow. Sitting in the circular bathtub, Qin Xiao, who was clean and tidy, picked up a small bottle of fluorescent green liquid next to him. The Hulk Super Serum, the color looks like a biological weapon from the movie. Qin Xiao muttered something in his heart, opened the bottle, raised his head, and drank it all. Hey? There doesn't seem to be any reaction. Ah. Before he finished speaking, Qin Xiao suddenly let out an extremely miserable scream. It felt like a C4 explosive had been detonated inside the body. It was as if the whole person had been crushed hard by a hydraulic machine, and all the muscles, bones and internal organs in the body were crushed to pieces in an instant. The moment of severe pain was beyond Qin Xiao's ability to bear. But the pain came and went away just as quickly. In just 2 or 3 seconds, all the pain in the body disappeared. Qin Xiao, who was already lying at the bottom of the bathtub, could not move. But every nerve in his body began to beat crazily. Every part of his body began to twitch constantly, looking like he was suffering from epilepsy. After the convulsions were over, my body started to itch. Qin Xiao could feel himself slowly regaining control of his body. The bone marrow, muscles, and internal organs in the body are being reorganized, arranged, and manufactured. Itching caused by countless bugs crawling in your body, in your blood vessels, and in the gaps between your bones. The pain was even more unbearable than that moment ago. Ah! Qin Xiao opened his mouth and let out a cry of unknown meaning. His body twisted erratically, and his head banged crazily against the ceramic bathtub. Bang! Bang! No ordinary bathtub could withstand his torture, and he dismantled the bathtub in just a few strokes. Fortunately, the hotel is high-end and the sound insulation effect is beyond imagination. Otherwise, if Qin Xiao made such a sound, someone would have called the police. The severe itching lasted for about 5 minutes. Qin Xiao, who looked hopeless, lay among a pile of ceramic shards and the filth flowing from his body. In the last minute or so, almost all the blood and bone marrow in his body were emptied. Instead, it is the bone marrow and blood recreated by the body after taking the Hulk serum. As the system said, there appears to be no change on the surface of the body. But the explosive power contained in muscles has far exceeded the scope of humans. Picking up a piece of ceramic shard lying around, Qin Xiao took a breath and slashed hard at his arm. It felt like an ordinary person's perfectly rounded nails were lightly scratched. There is a very faint tingling sensation on the skin. Apart from that, not even a single white mark was left on the skin. Instead, Qin Xiao used too much force and crushed the ceramic in his hand. Looks good. Qin Xiao muttered something, and then yelled crazily in his mind. Come out of the system. Is this the slight pain you are talking about? For a true hardcore man, yes. The unheard voice of the system sounded in Qin Xiao's mind. Qin Xiao almost choked to death from these words. Okay. I can't afford to offend you. I don't have the same experience as something that is not human. Complaining fiercely, looking at the mess on his body, Qin Xiao reached out and gently turned on the water outlet switch, wanting to clean the dirt off his body. Although I tried to touch the switch as gently as possible. But the metal switch was still thrown away in one fell swoop. No need to be so exaggerated, right? Qin Xiao smiled bitterly and stood up while holding on to the still intact surface of the bathtub. As a result, the only intact piece of ceramic was broken into pieces before any force was applied. Alas! It seems that I have to adapt carefully for a while. Now that it was like this, Qin Xiao simply violently broke the water pipe at the switch. Let the two jets of hot and cold water wash towards him. But I discovered an additional benefit. It's easier to say that the Liang Shui side has just entered autumn. It's just that the hot water is boiling hot water with a temperature of 100 degrees. Just like this, Qin Xiao didn't feel any burn when it was sprayed on his body. Just feel a little warm. It seems that not only the defense, but also the resistance to high and low temperatures has been improved a lot. Invulnerable to weapons and bullets, invulnerable to fire and water, that's what it's like. Qin Xiao happily cleaned his body. I hid in the hotel for several days. Even for meals, I had to ask the hotel staff to open the door and bring them in. There's nothing he can do, he'll break something now. Every time I finish eating, I look at the tableware that is mostly damaged and has no original shape. If Qin Xiao hadn't directly asked someone to take his credit card and pay a considerable deposit, I'm afraid the hotel will kick people out directly. It took 5 whole days for Qin Xiao to learn to control the surge of power in his body. Ignoring the damned looks in the hotel's eyes, I paid for my checkout and boarded a plane to Los Angeles. Obadiah is still being secretly monitored by SHIELD, and the whole story of this matter has not yet been discussed clearly with Tony. This is Qin Xiao's task. Regarding the points, Qin Xiao must come forward to solve it himself. Chapter 25 Second Generation Arc Reactor. Los Angeles, Marbury Beach. After Tony Stark returned, he only appeared in front of reporters and announced that Stark Industries would no longer manufacture weapons. He hid in the laboratory by himself, and saw no one except Pepper, who came to check in every day. He hid and developed his own armor. The drawings designed in Afghanistan have been brought back and entered into the computer. At this moment, in front of Tony, there is a 3-dimensional projection, which is exactly what he built in the cave using existing resources. Jarvis, remove the shell, keep the core technology unchanged, and repackage it with a newly designed shell. Yes, sir. As Jarvis's voice sounded, the 3-dimensional projection in front of Tony began to rotate. The outer armor parts scattered and disappeared. Then more images of armor components appeared out of thin air. Around the arc reactor in the middle, they were installed one by one in an orderly manner. The modeling of MARK-2 has been initially completed. How's it going, Jarvis? Tony stretched out his hand and turned the projection, looking at it carefully from front to back and left to right. I have to say, sir, your work is ahead of its time. I'm always ahead of my time, Jarvis. Help me place the order, I need them to send the first batch of materials as soon as possible. The initial appearance of the battle armor has been finalized. Tony Stark picked up another launcher on the table. In his vision, this launcher can be used as a power system and a laser cannon as a conventional weapon. It seems that I have to replace the reactor immediately. The current speed is too low and cannot keep up with the consumption of the armor. After lowering his head and muttering something, Tony took a brand new arc reactor on the table. Good afternoon, Mr. Qin. Mr. Stark is in the laboratory. I will inform him immediately that you are here. Tony originally gave Qin Xiao permission to enter the house, but it did not include the underground laboratory. It turned out that only Pepper and Rhodes had the password and permission to enter from Jarvis. But now, there is one more. Mr. Qin, Mr. Stark wants you to go down directly. The access to the basement will be opened to you later. The password for the door is 106. This password is true. I specifically watched the part where Pepper entered the basement in Iron Man 1. When Qin Xiao entered the basement, he happened to see Pepper putting his hand into Tony Stark's chest. And a wet copper wire was pulled out from inside. I have to say, it still looks quite disgusting and terrifying. There is a hole in the chest, and others stick their fingers in. Oh shit, what do I see? Is this a new pose for you too? Tony, have you entered women's bodies too much before, and now it's a woman entering your body? Hey! Qin, I don't think you are that glib. Xiao Laojiao originally had a frightened look on his face when he did this, but after Qin Xiao teased him like that, he immediately recovered. That's because you don't know him well enough, Pepper. You will know in the future. Compared with him, I am as honest as a cow on your uncle's farm. Tony asked Xiao Qiao to insert the wire of the new reactor base into his chest, and then walked towards Qin Xiao. Tony, do you plan to stay like this? I mean, you don't plan to find a doctor to treat yourself thoroughly and take out the shrapnel or something? Qin Xiao pointed at Tony's chest. To be honest, the nightlight on your chest is actually pretty cool, but it's such a big thing stuffed into your body. When talking about the reactor on his chest, Tony became unusually serious. I won't take it out anymore. This thing saved me. I'm not just talking about my life. It determines what kind of person I should be in the future. I have to keep it to remind myself. Tony, what to do with this old one? Little Pepper is still Tony's personal assistant. When she saw Qin Xiao coming to see Tony, she was preparing the basement and asked Tony what to do with the old reactor. Destroy it, burn it, you know I have many characteristics, but nostalgia is definitely not included. Okay. Pepper went upstairs with the reactor. Qin Xiao knew that she would seal the old one in a transparent cover and give it to Tony as a gift. And when Obadiah snatched the reactor from Tony's chest, it was this old one that saved Tony's life at the critical moment. But now that there is another Qin Xiao in the world, this bridge should be avoided. What's more, Qin Xiao came here this time to solve this matter. Hey, Tony, don't you have anything to ask me? About Afghanistan. Seeing Xiao Qiao go upstairs, Qin Xiao opened his mouth first and said. Even if we don't consider the system and mission issues, the two parties have known each other for such a long time. From a personal perspective, the two parties have indeed become friends. Apart from the secrets of the system and time travel, Qin Xiao had no intention of hiding anything from Tony, which would create some distance between the two. A man came to see me 2 days ago. He comes from an intelligence department with a long and stinky name. What's his name? Anyway, he is an agent with a very impressive hairline. Tony gestured to his forehead and described the appearance of the visitor. He told me everything about you, the death of your parents, how you got your serum, how you met that sexy agent chick, etc. You also said that you joined them to save me, but I won't thank you because you lied to me. Your energy comes from the super soldier serum, not from Chinese Kung Fu. Hell, I even paid you more than a month's salary. Tony took out 2 bottles of beer from the refrigerator and handed one to Qin Xiao. Tony Stark, don't expect to hear a thank you from him easily. But Qin Xiao knew that although he was talking about deceiving him, his eyes were full of gratitude. Otherwise, why did he even give himself the password to the basement today? Okay, actually you didn't lose. You even won millions of dollars in the casino, all because of me. Is that what the agent with the touching hairline told you? Qin Xiao said that the good old agent Carlson appeared in his mind. Tony asked doubtfully as he took a sip of beer. Is there something else you, bastard, are deceiving me about? That's not true. It seems that he definitely didn't tell you clearly how I found the secret cave that the US military couldn't find for more than a month. Oh. What did Tony seem to think of? He raised his head slightly to signal Qin Xiao to continue. Yesterday someone asked me if I had saved the manuscript and updated a few chapters. I am working hard to save the manuscript these days, and I will update 3 chapters every day. After the 100,000 words website recommends it, I will work hard to explode. The first chapter is here, and there will be more at noon and evening. Chapter 26 The Mysterious Portal. Obadiah plays a very important role in Tony Stark's life. especially after his father died. Not to mention helping Tony take charge of the entire company. At that time, Tony was only in his early 20s. He was extremely wealthy, had a genius head, and had a self-righteous temper. I don't know how many troubles and romantic debts I have caused outside. These are all the things Obadiah has been doing behind Tony's back, silently wiping his butt. It was not until the appearance of Pepper that she gradually left Tony's personal life. Although he did that so that Tony, the old hen, could lay golden eggs for him with peace of mind. But from Tony's point of view, he must have deep feelings for Obadiah. Partners, friends, elders, even fathers. In fact, he knew as soon as he came back that there was a problem with his route, and those terrorists had a large number of his company's weapons. Not many people do both of these things. Tony Stark is not a fool, but when it comes to the emotions between people, any genius would become half an idiot. He didn't want to think about it, and he was also a little afraid to find the answer with his own hands. Halfway through Qin Xiao's words, Tony completely understood. Over the years, Stark Industries has become the world's largest arms dealer. Tony Stark's many inventions and designs have completely consolidated the arms market. In other words, Tony has paved the way for future weapons designs. Subsequent Stark Industries scientists only need to follow Tony's path. So in Obadiah's eyes, Tony Stark has gone from a hen that laid golden eggs to a stumbling block that prevents him from completely controlling Stark Industries. Naturally, Qin Xiao does not need to explain these truths. As long as it is confirmed that Obadiah did it, Tony will understand it himself. Hey! After throwing down an entire bottle of beer with a tilt of his head, Tony let out a heavy breath of alcohol. So now, you are monitoring him with all your strength, right? I don't know, I'm just a temporary worker, Tony. People think I'm a super soldier, but in terms of my fucking style of doing things, I should be. It depends on what you mean. Tony, you have seen the weapons in the hands of those people. This is what we saw. We don't know how many we didn't see. Terrorists? Drug dealers? Seeing Tony Stark hesitate, Qin Xiao said next to him. I know, even if I stop the production of weapons, he will still have the means and resources in the company to secretly produce and sell them. Tony frowned and rubbed his hair fiercely. Give me some time, I will let him leave the company, and I will give him a chance to enjoy his old age. Tony still couldn't bear it. Maybe this is destined, Iron Overlord is destined to be born, and the name Iron Man will be achieved. The difference is that now Qin Xiao may be added. Okay. I will tell them not to act on their own. Qin Xiao agreed very simply. Now he has 30% of the power of Hulk. In the Marvel movie world, he may not have enough fighting power in the later stage. But at this time, Hulk's 30% strength is simply a bug. Iron Overlord is nothing more than a thicker big paper shell, which is a little more troublesome to tear up. Tony, I can understand how you feel. It's okay. There is no one else here. If you want to cry, just cry. Come and rely on my broad shoulders to carry your weight. Bibby. Get out. Jarvis, contact the Los Angeles Police Department and say that a pervert broke into my house. Qin Xiao didn't know what S.H.I.E.L.D.'s decision was regarding Obadiah. I could only call Black Widow. Do you have a problem with me? Trainee agent. This time there was no sound of gunfire around Black Widow, it was very quiet. There is something big, but I don't want to do it anymore. I originally thought that I would join the largest intelligence agency, become a mysterious agent, and save the world when I have nothing to do. My partners around me are all sexy beauties and so on. Who knew that I would become a trainee agent and not be allowed to save the world? The beautiful agent around me would also disappear. Alas! Do you know what it feels like to miss someone every day and not be able to sleep? Qin Xiao's teasing made the Black Widow burst into pleasant laughter. If you really miss me that much, then when I finish this mission, I will go to Los Angeles to see you. Normally, every day is almost full of tasks, and speaking is all business. Could it be that Qin Xiao didn't say a few serious words, but it brought a slightly different mood to Black Widow? What you said is a lie. It's a puppy. Qin Xiao's childish words made Black Widow feel particularly sincere. Smiling even more happily. Okay, it's a lie, it's a puppy. Well, I have something to tell you about Obadiah. Qin Xiao repeated what Tony meant. After hearing this, Black Widow hung up the phone and asked Qin Xiao. S.H.I.E.L.D. can respect Tony Stark's wishes, but S.H.I.E.L.D. people will keep tabs on him. Once it is discovered that he has some small actions in private, S.H.I.E.L.D. will take immediate action. This can be regarded as an explanation to Tony. If Obadiah seeks death on his own, there will be nothing he can do. By the way, you just said you were on a mission. What mission? Is it dangerous? Do you need my help? After finishing the business, Qin Xiao changed the topic. This is confidential. You don't have enough authority, Mr. Trainee Agent. Black Widow teased Qin Xiao. After he finished speaking, he felt the sincere concern in Qin Xiao's words and added another sentence. Don't worry, this mission is safe and there is no danger. Damn it, I swear, next time we meet, I'm going to smash Nick Fury's head in. Qin Xiao said fiercely that he was tired of being called trainee agent. Braised egghead, ha ha ha. Your nickname is very appropriate. Nick knows you will make him mad to death. Okay, I won't tell you any more. I'm going to work. Just wait for me in Los Angeles. Trainee agent. Black Widow also gave Qin Xiao a rare tease. After hanging up the phone, Black Widow looked at the phone in front of her in a daze. Qin Xiao was different from the people around her. The way he spoke and his concern were just like some ordinary young people. This is exactly what Black Widow lacks and longs for, and this feeling is heartwarming. I won't really fall in love with this boy. Black Widow muttered, then immediately gave up the idea. He smiled bitterly, thinking that he probably would never have the chance to experience that kind of ordinary happiness in his life. Throwing the phone on the sofa, Qin Xiao looked at the night view outside the window. At this time, a square golden portal suddenly appeared behind Qin Xiao. A woman wearing a black combat uniform with the word TVA printed on it walked out. But just as this woman stepped into Qin Xiao's apartment, a hand suddenly appeared in the door. He immediately pulled this woman back. Immediately, the golden portal disappeared. Qin Xiao suddenly felt something and turned back suddenly. Empty. Feeling something wrong? Maybe it's because I haven't slept well these past few days. Qin Xiao scratched his head and said bitterly. Chapter 27 Time Variation Administration. The nameless place, the headquarters of the Time Variation Administration. The woman who appeared strangely behind Qin Xiao just now was standing in a room similar to a trial court. In front of her, on a seat similar to the judge's seat, sat a young woman with blonde hair and a uniform. I don't understand. Why do you want to prevent me from arresting the prisoner? That person violated the sacred timeline, and he is not only a time criminal, his appearance even affects the sacred timeline itself. The woman in black accused the blonde woman sitting high in the court. C18, I fully understand your determination to defend the sacred timeline, but the Great Time Guardian is personally paying attention to this incident. It is the Time Guardian's intention to prevent you from arresting that person. The blonde woman said calmly with an expressionless face. But he will cause riots like this, and the sacred timeline cannot be desecrated. The woman in black is still a little aggrieved. She was born to protect this, as they named it, the sacred timeline. Are you questioning the timekeeper's decision? The blonde woman's voice suddenly became louder. I cannot. When the Time Guardian was mentioned, the woman in black immediately restrained her anger, bowed slightly and said, very good. The blonde woman nodded with satisfaction. The Guardians of Time are all-knowing and all-powerful. All I need to do is implement their ideas. You go ahead. After the woman in black left, the lights in the entire court went out. In the darkness, a sigh came. For readers who don't know about the Time Variation Authority, you can watch Marvel's new drama, Loki. I personally think it is much more exciting than WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Qin Xiao was completely unaware of the actions of the Time Variation Management Bureau. After being idle for several days, he came to Tony's house again. This time, I came mainly for Jarvis. He still had 2,000 points left in the Systems Points Mall. So far, a total of 3,000 points have been obtained, and there is still a certain distance before the opening of the second-level mall. But he has nothing to exchange for it so far, the only thing left is a realistic currency exchange. But it doesn't help at all in this world, but this option allows him to no longer worry about money in the real world. But if he wants to live freely, money alone is not enough. He must create a business empire. A business empire that has mastered high-end technology. So the question is, which company has the best high-end technology? If Black Panther doesn't come out, Tony will be king. Ever since, Qin Xiao shamelessly came to Tony's laboratory. Bang! As soon as he stepped down from the basement, he saw Tony spinning and flying into the air. The whole person turned upside down and hit a protruding wall in mid-air. Then, just like a poster, the person slid down the wall above while standing upside down. Qin Xiao rushed forward and grabbed Tony's ankle to avoid the embarrassing situation of his head hitting the ground. You should find a private acrobatics teacher, Tony. I saved you again, you'd better get a small notebook and write it down. Damn it! I should have started the experiment at 10% first, put me down. 2 minutes later, Tony put an ice pack on his neck and said to Qin Xiao in surprise. What do you want an AI butler for? With all due respect, your apartment is not as big as my garage, and it seems to be rented. I have taken a fancy to an apartment in downtown Los Angeles and am planning to buy it and renovate it. I want to make all the electrical appliances in the house fully automatic and have the feeling of a smart home. It doesn't need to be as high-end as Jarvis. Do you get me? Qin Xiao rolled his eyes and said, Tony's words were not very harmful, but extremely insulting. But you can't refute it. If you are richer than him, you will be using your entire net worth to challenge other people's pocket money. Then you go and buy the house first, and then just give me the architectural drawings. You don't need to worry about anything else. I will help you set up a private server and then install a smart program for you. I will let Pepper take the people from the company to decorate according to my drawings, but you need to buy the furniture yourself. Tony. I love you. Don't worry, I will give you the money. Qin Xiao hugged Tony's shoulders and smiled so cheaply. Tony glanced at Qin Xiao very arrogantly and waved Qin Xiao's arm away. He said with a look of disdain, Keep your poor property, you poor man. Whatever I take out of the garage is worth more than your house. Okay, I know you are rich, and you are Tony Stark. In that case, take care of the furniture for me by the way. I really wish I had one less car. I see what you have in the garage. Go away. Jarvis, cancel this guy's authority. I don't want to see him again. The two of them were joking without saying a word. A piece of news on the television that had been on caught Tony's attention. Yesterday, a small town called Kumala experienced a bloodbath by terrorists. This was a group of terrorists who called themselves the Ten Rings Gang. Accompanied by the voices of reporters at the scene, the TV picture showed the ruins of the small town. There were many corpses of civilians lying on the roadside, including women and children. In some footage of terrorists, the words Stark on their weapons are particularly obvious and dazzling. In particular, a bald man who looked like a leader was standing in the ruins directing the terrorists' atrocities. It's him. This guy is actually still alive. Tony and Qin Xiao said almost at the same time. The two of them saw the bald man walking to the entrance of the cave with their own eyes, and Tony even pressed the detonator with his own hands. Unexpectedly, this bald man was so lucky that he survived. Damn it! Ethan! Tony suddenly stood up and screamed strangely. I just thought I heard about this town somewhere. It's Ethan's hometown. For God's sake, Jarvis, contact Rod. Tony, the intelligence department needs to come faster for this kind of thing. Qin Xiao knew what Tony wanted to do. After the last incident, Tony wanted to provide Ethan with a job in the United States. But Ethan insisted on returning to his hometown to treat people there. Tony also promised to build a large hospital for them later. Unexpectedly, terrorists came to the door. He still dialed Black Widow's number, and Ethan had contact with everyone, although he didn't get along with them day and night in the cave like Tony. But they can be considered comrades who have experienced bullets and bullets together. Therefore, Black Widow's efficiency is quite fast, and the results were found within 20 minutes after hanging up the phone. Tony. I'm sorry. Ethan is gone. Survivors in the town said they captured Ethan and burned him alive in the house. Qin Xiao hung up the phone and said sadly. Where is his family? Tony stared straight at the bald man on the TV. They're all in that house, and no one can escape. Chapter 28 Witness the birth of Iron Man. Watching TV is just a picture. Some things must be experienced in person to give you the most direct and correct feeling. For Tony, this is war, weapons, death, and blood. God puts all the blood around him, when he puts it beside him. Tony Stark transformed from a playboy into Iron Man. For Qin Xiao, it may be the game mentality of traveling through the world. Or maybe he knows what will happen from God's perspective, and has no special feelings or beliefs about killing people and fighting in Afghanistan. But this does not affect his other senses, such as the first time he saw Tony Stark put on the iron armor. Compared with watching movies, reality has the greatest impact. Watching the auxiliary console made by Tony extend several metal arms at the same time to put on the armor for each part. Although Tony hasn't painted it yet, even though Qin Xiao has seen Mark 85's heaven-defying nano armor in movies. But Qin Xiao was still deeply fascinated by the armor in front of him. On the feet, hands, back, joints, there are a large number of cleverly designed parts in each place to move. The faint energy blue light inside was revealed. This is so handsome, Farki, this is every man's ultimate dream. Qin Xiao shouted excitedly. That's right, this is a man's toy, and any sports car or firearm is simply weak compared to it. Don't get excited, man, the ultimate dream is yet to come, you will scream for my next operation. Jarvis, start the propulsion device, I want to fly on the ground. Sir, that will require trillions of calculations. Jarvis advised conscientiously. Jarvis, sometimes you have to learn to run before you can walk, come on. As Tony finished speaking, the thrusters under the armor's feet spurted out red flames. The armor slowly rose from the ground, rising almost half a meter. After staying in midair for a few seconds, the armor waved its palms, and 4 jets sprayed out flames at the same time. Whoosh! Qin Xiao only felt a silver lightning flash directly in front of his eyes, flying directly out of the house along the garage passage. Soar! Ho! 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 Tony's excited voice echoed in the room. Qin, you definitely don't understand what this feels like, ha ha ha. Woo! Tony laughed extremely arrogantly. Tony, be careful. There is a saying in China, extreme happiness leads to sadness. Have you heard of it? Qin Xiao said sourly. Haha. You are jealous, you are definitely jealous. I am Tony Stark. Jarvis, what is the flight altitude record of the State Route 71 reconnaissance plane? Official record, 85,000 feet, sir. Okay, Qin, you witnessed a new flight record today. Tony cheered, and in the night sky of Los Angeles, a streak of fire flashed across the sky, then vertically upward, straight into the sky. Qin Xiao, who is familiar with the plot of the movie, certainly knows what will happen next. He directly pulled up a chair and sat in front of a blue and white antique sports car in the garage with a bottle of drink. Sure enough, less than 2 minutes later, a roar was heard. Tony, who was wearing armor, smashed through the 2 ceilings from the air, flattening the sports car in front of Qin Xiao. Well! Qin Xiao heard Tony's resentful sigh from the speakers in the room. Silly! Let's get to work! Spray him! Tony's intelligent robotic arm robot for housework slowly moved to Tony's side. He raised the modified mechanical arm and sprayed a large amount of fire-extinguishing spray at the armor lying on the ground. I remember that in the original plot, Obadiah once angrily insulted a Stark Industries scientist. It is said that Tony Stark built a small arc reactor out of a pile of junk in a cave. And Obadiah's entire laboratory of scientists was facing the large prototype in Stark Industries. But I couldn't even find any direction. In fact, even if it weren't for technology crushing and genius minds. In terms of pure hands-on ability, Tony Stark's powerful hands-on ability, coupled with Jarvis and the many mechanical arms he created, can rival a large assembly line factory. After the last freeze at high altitude, it only took 3 days to build a brand new armor. This does not include the day it took to place the order and transport the materials. The familiar gold and red color scheme can be used as a laser cannon's propeller, and the arc reactor lights up on its chest. Qin Xiao was still in a daze for a moment. There are many superhero characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The ones with the most fans are probably Iron Man and Captain America. But when it comes to which hero is their favorite to watch, most people would say Iron Man. From the bulky Mark I in the cave, to the Mark II that now requires the assistance of a robotic arm to put it on. From the suitcase-style portable Mark V, to the tracking style of Avengers I, and the decomposition combination of Iron Man III. To the extremely shocking nano-battle armor in the final battle. It seems that every time Iron Man appears, it can bring new visual enjoyment to people. How do I look? The armor was finally completed. Tony turned around angrily and asked Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao acted like a fashion designer looking at a model. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully and nodded. Pretty good. Congratulations, Tony. You look almost as tall as me now. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and gestured to both sides' heads. Tony, Van. What happened on Kamala, including Ethan's death, and the large number of Stark Industries weapons still in the hands of terrorists? This made Tony furious. Before dealing with Obadiah, he must first eradicate the gang of terrorists. This matter must be done by himself, which is why the armor was built so quickly. But because of Qin Xiao, Tony had to change his mind about fighting alone. Originally, Tony didn't plan to take Qin Xiao with him. The first reason was that he felt that he was enough. The second is because he feels that Qin Xiao is no longer his opponent. This idea came to an abrupt end after Qin Xiao directly shaped his excess armor material into a ball with his bare hands. I remember super soldiers shouldn't be that powerful. Faced with Tony's question, Qin Xiao turned around and put his hands behind his back in a very pretentious manner, looking up to the sky and saying like a lonely master. I don't know about others, but me. Qin Xiao. It's so powerful. Chapter 29 Conversation on the Plane. Facts have proved once again that as long as you pay the price after the second year of secondary school, the so-called pretense only lasts 3 seconds. The two temporarily decided to go to the Middle East together to eliminate terrorists. But transportation is a big problem, and Tony has a private jet. But his plane was too high profile, so this matter had to be done quietly. Quinjet? Tony could even build one himself, but time didn't allow it. They must hurry up while the gang of terrorists are still looting the town near Kamala. Therefore, Qin Xiao once again set his sights on S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony now requires that his armor be kept secret, so it is naturally impossible for the two of them to go through normal channels. Ever since, two dark figures appeared at the entrance of the Los Angeles branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. late at night. This is neither a headquarters nor a secret base with important supplies. And it's still in the United States, so the guards are not very tight. Under the powerful intelligent security system, there are not even night guards. Qin Xiao tiptoed and took out his ID. He whispered confirmation to Tony beside him. Are you sure you can eliminate the visitor records and monitoring here? This is my work permit. Although I'm not afraid of them causing trouble, I don't want to lose my regular salary. It wasn't until Tony made an OK gesture that Qin Xiao picked up the ID in his hand and pressed it lightly against the sensor on the door. Doo-doo. Insufficient permissions. Several red lights flashed on the sensor, and an electronic sound sounded softly. How can it be? Qin Xiao did not give up and tried twice more, but it still showed insufficient permissions. Let me. Tony took Qin Xiao's ID, internship agent. Okay, cute little rookie, let me try it. Doo-doo. Tony sighed, handed the ID to Qin Xiao and asked. Have you ever been here? No. Qin Xiao shook his head in confusion. I found out the location here from Natasha. Congratulations, you found a good job. Tony glanced at Qin Xiao with disdain, opened the armor's arm, and Tony took out a card connected to the line and pasted it on it. Fortunately, I was prepared, Jarvis, to let this mysterious intelligence department that interns are not allowed to see how powerful we are. S.H.I.E.L.D.S. Washington headquarters may have a rudimentary intelligence slightly comparable to Jarvis, but the branch is here, haha. In Qin Xiao's greetings to the 18th generation of Nick Fury's ancestors. In less than 10 seconds, Jarvis broke through the door. And through the network on the access control, he directly controlled this humble building located on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Each branch of SHIELD is equipped with a Quinjet fighter for the rapid movement of agents during missions. Tony and Qin Xiao were lucky today, no one here used it for missions. Sneaking all the way from the fire escape to the roof. 2 minutes later, a Quinjet soared into the sky and went directly to Tony's home on Marbury Beach. Putting on their battle armor, the two of them flew across the Pacific towards the Middle East. Did you know? During World War II, my father flew Captain America through enemy-occupied territory, directly to the enemy's rear, and completed a rescue operation. I didn't expect that now, I would also be flying a plane with another super soldier to fight against terrorists. But my dad is just a pilot, I'm different this time, I have this. Tony tapped his armor. Tony, actually you have many ways to fight against these terrorists. If you intended to make armors in Afghanistan to escape, then why now? Is it to eradicate the Ten Rings gang? Tony was silent for a while before slowly speaking. My father originally told me that if you want to achieve peace, you have to hold the strongest stick. This is my philosophy in making weapons, but since the missile with the name Stark engraved on it exploded next to me in Afghanistan. Alas! Tony sighed quietly. I thought the weapons I made brought peace to the world, but I didn't know how many people the name Stark brought despair to. Before the missile exploded, I was lying there. I could see Stark clearly. Every letter of the gram. But I can't see clearly what he means. There is only despair. I can't even imagine that if someone is in the same desperate situation as me, what will he think when he looks at the surname Stark? Tony's words made Qin Xiao a little unable to accept it. Others didn't know that he knew that Tony's words were correct. Let alone others, Scarlet Witch and his twin brother Quicksilver will both be members of the Avengers in the future. I once looked at the missile with Stark written on it for 12 hours. I was just a stick maker and now I've made one of the strongest sticks in the world. Tony pointed to the armor on his body. I will hold it firmly in my own hands. This is the meaning of my future existence. I will only do this one thing in this life, fight against terrorists, eliminate war, and create peace. It has nothing to do with the country or politics. In a sense, the early Iron Man and Black Widow were actually trying to forgive their past selves. Until the later stages of the Avengers, this forgiveness will slowly turn into a sense of responsibility. Especially after the Battle of New York, the Avengers took on the responsibility for the security of this world. It began to slowly transform. Tony, do you know why Nick Fury forced me to join the Strategic Defense Offense and Logistics Agency? Damn it, curse that name. It's because he has a plan, the Avengers plan, to form a team whose members have extraordinary abilities and stand up when the world needs it. After Qin Xiao finished speaking, he looked straight at Tony. That's a good idea. I don't know Nick Fury, but I know that whether it's the CIA, the KGB, or MI5, whatever their original intention was, in the end, they all become political tools, more or less. Wherever someone needs to step forward, I will appear there wearing a battle armor, but I don't want to be a sword in the hands of others. I agree with the Avengers' plan, but I don't agree with S.H.I.E.L.D. This is Iron Man's point of view. That's right. Tony. That's what I mean. We don't make the stick in other people's hands, we hold the stick ourselves. Qin Xiao turned to Tony Stark and said. This time Tony lowered his head and smacked it for a long time. He suddenly raised his head and said to Qin Xiao. Like today? Yes. Just like today. Chapter 3 Night. Chapter 30 Massacre. Outside the small town of Kumala, a large new cemetery was erected densely. This is a group of mausoleums built collectively by survivors in the town for their lost relatives and friends. It was a densely packed area, with a simple hole dug and a wooden board inserted. There are not many people left in the entire town, and many young lucky people have chosen to leave this unfortunate place. Except for the elderly, the people left behind are some poor people who have lost their families and have nothing. They used to come here often, rob some things, and take away some people who had the skills they needed, but it was never like this, a massacre. They said Ethan helped you escape, which is a challenge to their majesty. The person who spoke was one of the few young people Qin Xiao and Tony found in the town. Along the way, he led Qin Xiao and Tony towards Ethan's grave. The words that came out of his mouth made Tony even more silent. Why don't you go? I mean, if you want to get out of here, I can help. Tony asked after being silent for a long time. This is my home, sir. My parents and sister are buried here. I want to stay with them. There was a trace of sadness in the young man's eyes. This was his only home and he had nowhere to go. This is Ethan's grave. He was a good doctor and helped many of us. We set up the biggest tombstone for him. The young man took Qin Xiao and Tony to a cemetery outside the town. I'm sorry, man. I should have thought of it, I should have noticed this, but I swear to you, those people will never hurt the innocent people around them again. Tony said as he took out a cheeseburger and placed it on the cemetery next to Ethan, which was his child. Before Ethan came back, he went back to Los Angeles with Tony. The first thing Tony did when he returned to the United States was to eat cheeseburgers. Ethan said while eating the burger that his children also liked it very much, but unfortunately there was no chance to eat it often in Kumala. Qin Xiao was a little moved by this scene. Tony Stark looks foul-mouthed and arrogant. But he always silently kept everyone's needs in his heart. Happy's favorite TV show, after Rhodes was injured, he put a parachute on Spider-Man's armor, etc. Even when Qin Xiao went to him recently, he noticed that for the decoration of Qin Xiao's new home, he was despising Qin Xiao on the surface, but secretly he was secretly changing the code of an intelligent program. A large number of Chinese characters have also been thoughtfully added to make Qin Xiao more comfortable and convenient to use. Yukata is a small town almost 50 kilometers away from Kumala. This place has recently become another place for plunder by the Ten Rings gang terrorists led by Baldhead. Of course, this is what the young man who led the way told Qin Xiao and Tony. Sir! Can I come with you? Give me a weapon, I want to avenge my family and friends. The young man said to Qin Xiao and Tony before sending them off to the plane. Stay here, take care of the elderly, and change your hometown back to what it was before. Qin Xiao patted the young man on the shoulder, and left Ethan's hometown with Tony. In previous news footage, reporters described the path to Kumala as the road to hell. Now, this title has obviously been given to Yukta. The roads outside the town were littered with the bodies of locals. Most of them were shot in the back, presumably as targets for the terrorists to kill from behind while escaping. There are not only young people and women here, but also many children in their teens. The worst one was a little girl who looked about 5 or 6 years old. The powerful force of the rifle tore her thighs apart. She fell to the ground and looked into the distance, her eyes full of horror. The bloody wound on his thigh has begun to turn white. Behind him is a long, irregular streak of blood. Qin Xiao could even picture it in her mind. Maybe her parents had been shot dead in the town. Before she died, she told her to run quickly, but the terrorist shot her in the back and broke her thigh. So the little girl dragged a stump of her limb and crawled on the ground for a long time before she bled to death. I don't know what your beliefs are, but I think heaven is universal, where you will meet your parents and never have these misfortunes again. Qin Xiao knelt down, reached out, and gently closed the little girl's eyes. The little girl closed her eyes forever, but this picture has always been engraved in Qin Xiao's mind. Lingering. In the small town, sparse gunshots were heard along with calls for help. Qin Xiao and Tony looked at each other. Tony's armor mask closed, and Qin Xiao kicked hard on the ground. Up and down, the two figures rushed towards the town like lightning. On the path leading out of the town, a child of 13 or 14 was stumbling away towards the outside of the town. His father, a man who had been shot in the thigh, was dragging one leg and running hard behind the boy. And he kept shouting loudly for the boy to run faster and faster. More than 10 meters behind them, a terrorist was holding a rifle. He was setting up a standard aiming position, with his aim facing his father's other thigh in front of him. Break this leg, and then shoot the little boy in front to death, letting the man die in despair in both mental and physical pain. This is the fun he has just found recently. The massacre in Kumala completely unleashed the demons in the hearts of these terrorists. The methods used in recent days have become increasingly bloody and cruel. Locking on the father's thigh, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. My finger was about to pull the trigger. Whoosh! A mini-missile shot from the air, directly blowing the terrorist's body into pieces. In the sky, a golden red figure flashed past. At this moment, another terrorist heard the explosion in the house next to him. She also held some earrings, bracelets, and other female accessories in her hands. He glanced at the explosion scene on the ground in confusion before he could figure out what happened. On the path made of loess, I saw a figure wrapped in dust all over the sky, rushing in from the outside like a giant dragon. The terrorist couldn't even raise his gun in time. Qin Xiao punched him directly in the face with all his strength. A full punch. The whole head exploded like a watermelon hit by a sledgehammer. Blood from his brain sprayed all over Qin Xiao's face. Chapter 31 The Devil Liked Qin Xiao. Anyone who knows Marvel movies knows that Hulk's setting has been weakened countless times compared to the comics. But the fact that the angrier you are, the stronger you are, is a hidden setting in the movie. It's just that the difference between the maximum and minimum values is not that huge. As for the Hulk's improved serum given by the system, 30% is the maximum intercepted value. This is a pretty scary number. So Qin Xiao took action with all his strength and punched a terrorist's head into an exploding watermelon. Blood mixed with brain paste covered Qin Xiao's face. In response, Qin Xiao just reached out and wiped his face casually, as if wiping sweat. Then he revealed a smile that was uglier than an evil spirit, revealing some big white teeth. Prepare to go to hell from now on, you scum. This sentence sounded the prelude to the killing. In the middle of the town, most of the terrorists and townspeople gathered here. And Tony's armor had the advantage in the air, and he had already seen a large group of people in the middle. It flew directly towards the middle. Qin Xiao, on the other hand, started to clean up the scattered terrorists along the streets and alleys. An off-road vehicle parked in front of the town's only bar. 3 terrorists were moving boxes of all kinds of alcohol from the bar. The owner of the bar, a bearded middle-aged man, was lying on the floor of the bar with a bullet hole in his forehead. His wife was holding the thigh of one of the terrorists tightly, screaming angrily. The terrorist was somewhat humane and did not attack the woman immediately. He shook his thigh a few times but didn't shake the woman away. Then he raised the butt of the gun and hit the woman on the head hard. Bang! 1 time. Bang! 2 times. There was a trace of blood on the corner of the woman's mouth, but her hands seemed to be knotted, holding his thigh motionlessly and not letting go. The terrorist finally got a little impatient and turned his gun around, hoping to kill the woman with 1 shot. "I'll fuck you, uncle!" A roar, a typical Chinese curse. It doesn't matter whether the terrorists understand it or not. Accompanying this angry curse was the sudden appearance of a fist on the terrorist's chest. The angry Qin Xiao didn't even take out the Tang Dao. His punch not only shattered his spine, but also broke his chest and hit him directly. Snapped. 2 other terrorists were carrying a wine barrel, and a piece of internal organs with a strong smell of blood was slapped on one of them's face. Crash! The wine barrel fell to the ground and the wine spilled all over the floor. The 2 terrorists had not yet reacted. Qin Xiao had already ducked in front of the 2 of them, looking at the 2 of them who were still carrying things while facing each other. Both hands came out, one person grabbed the back of the other person's head, and grabbed the hair and scarf together. At the same time, he pushed hard towards the middle. The faces of the 2 terrorists were quickly collided with each other with astonishing force. Bones shattered, flesh and blood squeezed and fused together. The 2 heads were collided into one by Qin Xiao. Countless pieces of broken bones and flesh were smashed into the opponent's brain, making him look like he was no longer alive. In the end, the 2 formed an inverted V shape and fell to the ground like a Siamese man. Such a bloody and violent scene, the middle-aged woman lying on the ground and being hit by a gun butt, with blood on the corner of her mouth. There was no trace of panic. Instead, he picked up the rifle on the ground and pointed it at the terrorist who was punched through the chest by Qin Xiao. "Pull the trigger!" Da-da-da! The bullets filled with anger and hatred were vented to their heart's content, although most of them were driven to unknown places by the recoil. But there were still several bullets that accurately hit the man's head. His head was beaten to a bloody pulp. After venting her anger, the woman sat down on the ground and stared blankly at her husband's body. Qin Xiao sighed, without saying any words of comfort, and rolled up an earth dragon on the street again, speeding towards somewhere else. If you look down from the sky, Qin Xiao looks like a greedy snake in the entire town of Yukta. He ran quickly through the streets, and whenever he met a terrorist, he would always use the most direct physical collision, and the person he killed would be a bloody mess. The town is not big, and Qin Xiao is so efficient. 10 or 20 minutes was enough for him to plow the entire town. At this time, in the center of the town, Tony had just killed all the terrorists. I was about to say a few words to comfort those who were frightened. At this time, Qin Xiao walked out slowly at the corner of the street. The clothes on his body were transformed into combat uniforms produced by the system, and not a trace of blood was stained on them. But the part of Qin Xiao that is exposed outside, on the face, head, neck, and even hands, the blood stains were mixed with dust and pieces of flesh, as if coated with a thick layer of dark red mud. Especially the hair was dripping with sticky blood. There was also a piece of broken bone hanging from an unknown part of some unlucky man's body. He looked like a devil crawling out of hell. Some timid children and women couldn't help but scream when they saw Qin Xiao's appearance. Qin Xiao stopped in embarrassment and grinned a smile uglier than a ghost. Showing his big white teeth, he said to Tony, "I've got it done. There should be their base nearby." Let's go there again. Tony could see that Qin Xiao was even more out of control than himself. But this was not a good time for psychological counseling. He nodded slightly, turned around and took the lead to fly out of the town. It just flew a few hundred meters away. Boom! A shelling. The remaining terrorists drove a tank from nowhere. He directly knocked Tony out of the air. The shelling of ordinary tanks cannot damage Iron Man's armor at all. Tony sat up and shook his head, preparing to fly into the air and fire an armor-piercing round at the tank. As a result, Qin Xiao jumped hundreds of meters directly onto the tank. He bent down and inserted his hands directly into the connection between the turret and the tank body. Ah! With a roar, Qin Xiao actually lifted the entire fort away from the tank alive. Not to mention the terrorists in the tank, even Tony was stunned in mid-air. He kept staring at the armor of the tank, estimating how many times the thickness and defense of his armor could withstand Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao opened the turret and threw it casually, and the barrel happened to be placed across the tank. He hugged the barrel of the gun with both hands again, and then jumped directly from the tank. Then he swung the barrel towards the tank. The barrel with the turret is like a big hammer with a weird shape. Aimed at the body of the tank. Bang! 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 Chapter 32 Angry Nick Fury. Tony watched helplessly as the tank was violently smashed into thin metal by Qin Xiao. As for what the people inside looked like, Tony had no interest in taking a look. It's just Qin Xiao's performance today. Qin, do your clothes have an automatic dry cleaning function? Oh, for God's sake, you should go clean yourself on the plane first. You look like you just got thrown into King Kong's anus. Tony didn't ask directly, but joked indirectly. There is always something mysterious in the mysterious East. Qin Xiao may plan to hide the clothes matter, after all, he couldn't hide it after a long time. He turned his jeans and t-shirt into a slim casual suit right in front of Tony. Besides, Qin Xiao pointed at himself. This is a man's fight. It's better than hiding in a metal condom. Qin Xiao playfully patted Tony's shoulder and said, "That dress of yours is like a changing condom." Tony was relieved that Qin Xiao could still joke, and he lowered his head and muttered. Then he jumped up as if he was on fire. "Oh, damn! Why are you patting me on the shoulder? Who knows what you have on your hands? Jarvis! Go back and remind me to disinfect the armor in all directions." "Okay, sir." The bald head of the Ten Rings gang was once again swept away by Tony Stark and Qin Xiao at the nearby base. All ordnance personnel were again destroyed. The bald man in a camp far away in the desert was almost pissed to death by the news. It's all Obadiah's fault. God knows how much trouble this Tony Stark has brought to him. Although Tony was wearing a battle armor, he still recognized the arc reactor on his chest from the video sent by his subordinates. Damn it! The bald head slammed the table in front of him. It was only when he communicated with Obadiah afterwards that he learned the value of the arc reactor. Guarding the gold mine but letting others develop some missiles all the time, this is a typical loss of being uneducated. After angrily smashing several things on the table to vent his emotions, the bald head pointed at a thick breastplate piled in the corner of the room and said to his subordinates, "Take a photo of the pile of things created by Tony Stark and send it to Obadiah along with this video. He knows the value of this thing and asked him to send us some more arms. This time the loss it must be counted on him." The breastplate in the corner is the Mark I that Tony had not finished building yet. Qin Xiao only had time to bring out the blueprints when he came to rescue him. A small part of the first-generation armor has been built but has not had time to take it out. Anyway, Tony felt that these terrorists might not be able to see any clues, and they were not complete products and had no blueprints. But he never expected that this thing would fall into Obadiah's hands. The various forces in the Middle East are complex, and even S.H.I.E.L.D's intelligence capabilities here will be greatly reduced. Under normal circumstances, what Tony and Qin Xiao did here would be discovered by Nick Fury sooner or later. But you must know that SHIELD now has personnel to conduct comprehensive surveillance on Obadiah. So, when Obadiah received the video sent from the Ten Rings gang, Nick Fury also saw this video. This is... He could recognize Qin Xiao, but was the other one a robot? Nick Fury was shocked by Tony's armor and Qin Xiao's fighting prowess. But he soon reacted. The reactor on the chest is so iconic. This is Tony Stark. Should I say he is truly a genius in developing weapons? This allows the small arc reactor to exert its greatest war value. What a genius idea! Nick Fury subconsciously wanted to call Coulson and ask him to contact Tony Stark. But after thinking about it, he immediately called Qin Xiao. "Oh, my dear director, my boss, you finally remembered that I am a trainee agent." Qin Xiao is still on the plane back with Tony at this moment. Nick Fury directly ignored Qin Xiao's specially aggravated internship. He said even more sinisterly, "I almost forgot. I should give you a spot as an 8th level agent. After all, you can directly face terrorists in the Middle East. Oh, you seem to have blown up a tank. You are such an outstanding guy. You should be allowed to join the action team. Now do you want to come back and report to your boss about the Middle East and the ironclad man next to you? I guess he is your good friend Tony Stark, right?" This last sentence is the key point. Qin Xiao chuckled. "Boss, are you dreaming? Something about the Middle East, something about Tin Man, a new movie." Qin Xiao still said in an unserious manner. "Damn it! Stop pretending to me. You are my agent. The considerable amount of US dollars added to your bank card every month is because of my signature. Do you understand?" Nick Fury crushed the pen in his hand angrily. "Of course I know that I am your agent, a trainee agent, and my work permit can't even enter the branch entrance." Qin Xiao rolled his eyes and ignored Nick Fury's anger. "Wow!" As soon as Qin Xiao finished speaking, Tony flicked his finger on his forehead. "What are you doing?" Qin Xiao made a silent mouth gesture. Tony looked at Qin Xiao like he was an idiot, and made a gesture to open the door by swiping his work card with his card. Then he pointed at the aircraft's instruments. Qin Xiao instantly understood what he meant. "We couldn't talk about that. The plane was still stolen." "What are you doing?" Hearing Qin Xiao's unexpected cry, Nick Fury asked. "I am going to see with Tony. You know, there are many young and cute girls on the boat. Just now, a hot blonde girl suddenly kissed me. Damn it, is it my fault that I am handsome? My dear boss, in this situation, does it count as self-defense if I shoot directly?" Qin. Tony heard Nick Fury's angry cry clearly from the side. "Stop making up stories for me, I want you to come to Washington right away to find me, and the work permit you just mentioned, damn bastard, I know why a plane was stolen for no reason, a Quinjet, in the Middle East, I knew it, come to Washington to see me right away, right away." Facing Nick Fury's roar, Qin Xiao put his phone on speakerphone, looked at his left hand, and found a finger with longer nails. Aiming at the position of the phone's microphone, he began to scratch lightly. "What? What did you say? Oh! This damn signal, for God's sake, I'm taking a call from my boss. Hello? Hello?" Qin Xiao said and hung up the phone directly. Boom! Nick Fury smashed his phone on the table. Chapter 33 Coulson is very melancholy. There are not many people who can block SHIELD's tracking, but Tony Stark is definitely one of them. Especially if the plane is stolen. The two sneaked back to Tony's mansion. Qin Xiao just experienced a smart luxury bathtub at Tony's house. Coulson stood at the door of Tony's house with his impressive hairline and honest face. "Sir, that stinky intelligence agency agent with a long name is here." Jarvis imitated Tony's tone of humor. Coulson didn't see any sign of anger. He greeted the two of them with a smile, then directly opened a video on his mobile phone and placed it in front of them. It was a video clip of the two men showing off their prowess in the Middle East. Is there anything you want to say? Carlson looked at the two of them seriously. You should go to the cinema to watch movies. The picture quality of the pirated version is so disgusting. You can try my private viewing room. You will fall in love with that place. By the way, what is the name of this movie? Tony's answer was more serious. Carlson sighed helplessly. Don't you think the thing on the Tin Man's chest is very similar to what's on your chest? Are you kidding me? This is the arc reactor, and it obviously has an LED light on its chest. Tony's reaction made Carlson have no choice but to turn his head and aim at Qin Xiao. He pointed at Qin Xiao, who was waving the barrel of the tank and smashing the car body in the picture. Qin, what do you want to say? This guy is really ugly. Is he your friend? He is really disgusting. Is that shit on his face? As soon as Qin Xiao spoke, Carlson was almost so angry that he reached out and pulled his hair out. It was obvious that Qin Xiao's shamelessness was definitely beyond Carlson's imagination. Even Tony next to him almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Well. Carlson sighed deeply again. He finally knew why Nick Fury even smashed his cell phone. I took several deep breaths to calm down my mood. Carlson said with a serious face. This video was sent to Obadiah from the Middle East. We intercepted this video. I am here to tell Stark that I will give you a week to deal with your company's affairs. After 1 week, my people will take action. Seeing Tony finally nodding seriously, Carlson stood up and turned around to leave. If he stayed any longer, he was afraid that not a single hair on his head would be left. Correct. Carlson came back suddenly when he reached the door. Our branch here lost a Quinjet. Qin, you are our agent. Do you have any news? Qin Xiao smiled mysteriously. I'm just a trainee agent, but do you want to find something? I want you to experience one of China's greatest metaphysics, fortune-telling. You can understand it as divination. Qin Xiao stretched out his right hand and tapped his thumb quickly with 4 fingers. He even muttered words, child, rat, ugly, ox, tiger, Mao, rabbit, Chen Long. Little sloppy, really sloppy. Fa hai. You don't understand love. Supreme Lord, you are as urgent as a law. Ugh. A smile appeared on Qin Xiao's face. Even though Carlson and Tony both knew that this guy was talking nonsense. Still impressed by this amazing performance. Tony was extremely cooperative and asked with an expectant look on his face. How is it? Did the divination succeed? Where is the plane? It's not that easy. Qin Xiao rolled his eyes. There's still one last step left. Kyunkan Kandulai shakes Sunjin. Bagua is spread in all directions, looking for directions with broken shoes. Let's go. Qin Xiao shouted loudly, reached out and took off his shoes and threw them into the air. All right. Send someone to follow the direction of the shoes, they should be near the beach not far away. Carlson stretched out his hand to hold his forehead, with a look of despair on his face. Thank you so much, Agent Qin Xiao, for finding the plane. I will report this incident to remember your contribution. It doesn't matter. Qin Xiao waved his hand nonchalantly. Just give me a little bonus next month. It doesn't need to be too much. Just give me 5% of the price of the plane. Carlson coughed and felt blood rising in his chest. He turned around and left without saying a word. Don't leave, we can discuss it, 3% is fine, if it doesn't work, 1% is fine, as long as you mean it, hey. Carlson in the distance heard Qin Xiao's words behind him, stumbled, and almost fell to the ground. How stingy! Qin Xiao was still muttering behind. Qin Xiao reached a certain consensus with Tony on the plane. Establish a separate organization outside of all official background departments. But this matter needs to be done slowly. It's just 2 people now, so there's no need. Secondly, for Tony now, the biggest thing should be Obadiah's matter. Early the next morning, Tony went directly to the company in a rare move. He didn't see anyone, but went directly to his office, poured 2 glasses of wine and waited quietly. He knew that whenever he came to the company, Obadiah would definitely appear. Sure enough, before even 10 minutes had passed, Obadiah had already appeared at the door of the office. "Oh, look who is this!" Our Tony Stark finally remembered that he still has a company. "What have you been busy with recently?" "My chairman." Obadiah came straight to Tony and sat down. He was slightly startled when he saw the 2 glasses of wine that Tony had already poured. Then he smiled and said, "You always have good wine here, don't you?" After picking up the cup and taking a sip, Obadiah tapped the table lightly and said, "Tony, the outside world sees us as a joke now. The largest weapons company no longer manufactures weapons. The shareholders are already very dissatisfied with you. You need to do something to restore the confidence of the shareholders. Didn't you say you want to do renewable energy? I'll help you convince shareholders, but you need to come up with something, such as a microreactor on your chest." Unlike in the movie, Tony's escape this time was purely because of Qin Xiao's rescue. Instead of relying on the original suit of Mark I. No one thought about this. After all, Tony had not released the data of the chest reactor. Even Obadiah never thought about it until he saw the video sent by the Ten Rings gang yesterday. Obadiah summoned his scientists overnight. The manufacturing of war armor is very simple, it is nothing more than materials and weapons. The most troublesome thing is the power source. The arc reactor on Tony's chest looks simple. But dozens of experts under Obadiah held a meeting all night, and there was not even a research direction. "I saw the video they sent you, where I was tied to a chair, and I think we should have a nice chat, dear Uncle Obadiah." Tony looked up and spoke slowly. "For new books, the data before 100,000 words is very important. Readers who like it, move your little fingers, add it to the bookshelf, and give a 5-star review. It would be even better if you can click on the update and watch the video. Love you guys." Chapter 34 Obadiah uses retreat to advance. As Tony spoke, he turned on his mobile phone and played the video directly. Seeing that Tony Stark already knew everything he had done, Obadiah's eyes instantly became sharp, no longer the warm eyes that contained appreciation and doting for the younger generation. "Now that you know everything, what do you want to do here? Humiliate me, take away everything I have, or find someone to arrest me? Call." Tony stared at Obadiah's unfamiliar eyes without blinking. He exhaled heavily. "The whole world says I am a genius, but it took me decades to really see you clearly today. How come you have been facing me with that loving mask on for decades? I deserve this, Tony Stark. I turned the company into one of the largest companies in the world. I'm running the company day in and day out, and you're just hiding in your ridiculous lab making just a few missiles. The most ridiculous thing is that you, a weapons businessman, actually announced that you will no longer manufacture weapons. I've had enough of your willfulness and nonsense. You are childish like a baby in an ivory tower. The rules of this world don't work that way. Yes, Tony, this company should be in my hands." Obadiah slapped the table and roared, while he kept talking but secretly put his hand into the pocket of his pants. In that pocket, there is a small ultrasonic transmitter. It can quickly paralyze people. Correspondingly, there is a pair of headphones in the pocket that can resist ultrasonic waves. That's it, Obadiah. Hand over your position on the board of directors and your management rights in the company. I will purchase your shares at a price that is 50% higher than the market price. Find a place to spend your remaining years in peace, Obadiah, otherwise the next time the person comes to see you will be armed with a pistol and handcuffs. You have 5 days, this is my last respect for you, Uncle Obadiah." Facing Obadiah, who was a little hysterical, Tony no longer wanted to say anything more. He said coldly and turned around to leave. But Tony's last words made Obadiah slowly loosen his hand in his trouser pocket. 5 days was enough for him to complete a set of armor. As for energy, doesn't Tony Stark have one in his chest? Obadiah seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. But they were extremely cooperative with the people Tony sent out. Each business of the company, stacks of information and documents. They all explained the specific content and details carefully and in great detail. It felt like I was leaving the child I had raised in the hands of someone else. He took the trouble to tell the child what his taboos were, what he liked, etc. This is a normal expression of emotion for Obadiah, who has worked in this company for half his life. This performance even made Tony Stark lower his guard. Face reports from your own team. Tony just said lightly. It's up to him, just take it slow, and make sure he signs everything after 5 days. In this way, Obadiah pretended to cooperate with the handover of management rights in the company every day, and talked about the history of the company and the purpose of each project, etc. Tony's people pressed firmly on the documents in the office. Privately, control over factories and laboratories has not been relaxed at all. In the area he named Area 16, a steel behemoth is gradually taking shape. In Marbury's mansion, Tony sat on the sofa and dialed Pepper's phone. All the documents have been prepared. As long as Obadiah formally resigns from his position at tomorrow's board meeting and signs the equity transfer letter, it will be fine. Okay, help me attend tomorrow's board meeting. I'll ask Happy to pick you up tomorrow morning. Tony didn't want to go to the company to face Obadiah's departure. Okay. But there's no need to pick me up. I'm staying at the company today. You don't know that I've been so busy lately that I don't even have time to sleep. It's time for you to give me a raise, boss. Pepper understood Tony's thoughts very well, agreed to his request, and even made a joke with Tony. After hanging up the phone, Tony looked a little disappointed. Sir, Mr. Obadiah Stane is at the door. He wants to see you. Under Qin Xiao's strong suggestion and the impact of the scenes of massacres by terrorists in the Middle East, Tony closed Obadiah's permission to enter his home. So Obadiah, who had always been able to enter Tony's mansion directly, was standing at the gate and began to pass messages to Jarvis. Tony picked up one of the remotes on the table and pressed a button. An image of Obadiah standing in the doorway came through. Tony. Open the door. I'm leaving tomorrow. I bought an island in the Indian Ocean. Didn't you even give me a chance to say goodbye? Obadiah was no longer as high-spirited as before, and his usually burly figure now even looked a little bleak. His eyes were full of sincerity when he spoke. Call. Tony rubbed his face hesitantly. Jarvis, let him in. In the end, Tony couldn't bear to refuse Obadiah, who was standing at the door. Tony. I'm sorry. I mean, I've thought about it carefully these days. I came here today just to say sorry and say goodbye to you. Obadiah walked slowly towards the inside. What's the scenery like on that island? Tony didn't get up, still sitting on the sofa, and said slowly. It's heaven there. To be honest, I should have done this a long time ago. There are some things that you won't feel relaxed until you put them down, and you won't know what you need most in life. Sunshine, wine, cigars, fishing, and the essential girls, right? Obadiah looked like he had seen through everything and finally let go. Congratulations, Obadiah. Tony was really happy for him from the bottom of his heart. He raised his head and said sincerely. But just by looking up, he discovered that something was wrong with Obadiah. He had an earphone plugged into each ear. Oops! The idea just popped into Tony's head. A harsh sound came from Obadiah. Almost instantly, the veins on Tony's body were exposed, and his whole body fell into a state of paralysis. Unable to move. The ultrasonic transmitter, which can instantly put people into a state of paralysis, was his own invention. The project was later terminated by the government. Unexpectedly, Obadiah actually kept one in his hand. You do need to congratulate me because I'm about to become one of the most powerful people in the world. Obadiah changed his previous decadence and showed his fierce look. Chapter 35 Iron Man vs Iron Overlord. I have to thank those greedy terrorists. They didn't listen to me and killed you directly. I thought your chicken that could only lay golden eggs was worthless. I didn't expect you to give me a surprise, Tony. You laid the biggest golden egg in your life. As Obadiah spoke, he took out a magnetic adsorbent from his arms that was as big as the reactor on Tony's chest. You are indeed a genius, Tony, this thing will change the whole world. Obadiah pressed the button fiercely, and the arc reactor was slowly pulled up. It's so beautiful. This is simply a work of art, a perfect work of art. Do you know? For this work of art, I specially built a battle armor that is more powerful than your new toy. Obadiah admired the reactor in his hand. Gave Tony a look of contempt. You haven't grown at all since you were 21 years old. You actually believe that I will hand over the company to you? Obadiah waved and gave Tony a slap. You want to buy my shares at 50% higher than the market price? Drive me out of my kingdom? Enjoy the last few minutes of your life, Tony. You won't feel lonely. Pepper will come down to accompany you soon. She is such a good woman, isn't she? Obadiah laughed and left. Tony collapsed on the sofa, stiffening his neck and trying to move, but he couldn't even speak. The clock on the wall ticked 193 times, and Tony breathed a sigh of relief. Jarvis, call Qin and ask him to rush to Stark Industries immediately. Pepper is in danger. After telling Jarvis, Tony staggered towards the basement. While holding his cell phone, he quickly dialed Pepper's number. I just don't know why, but no one has answered Zijiao's cell phone. He rolled down the long stairs all the way. I finally reached my workbench, but I couldn't reach it even with all my strength, the first-generation micro-arc reactor that had been repackaged by Chili Pepper. Ah! Tony let out a hoarse roar. Without the arc reactor, could he even feel shrapnel blocking his blood vessels? There was no reason. Even breathing became difficult. I hope that Guy Qin can rush to the company and rescue Pepper. He should be fine. Tony's consciousness began to blur, just when he was about to give up. A metal-armed intelligent robot that is often teased for its clumsiness. It seemed as if it sensed the plight of its owner. It actually slowly drove over from a distance. Then he waved his metal arm and swept the arc reactor off the table. The glass cover shattered instantly when it hit the ground. Tony suddenly used all his strength, picked up the arc reactor and stuffed it directly into his chest. Oh! Good boy! He took a deep breath of air and didn't forget to compliment the metal arm. I finally recovered, and a feeling of surviving a disaster emerged spontaneously. Jarvis, have you contacted Qin? I'm sorry, sir, Mr. Qin didn't answer the phone. No time, Pepper. The importance of Pepper to Tony is self-evident. After Tony recovered, he quickly put on the armor and asked Jarvis to call Pepper's phone continuously. Fortunately, just as he was flying towards the company, Pepper answered the phone. Tony. Pepper had just finished her work when she noticed that her cell phone, which was set to silent and placed on the sofa, was full of missed calls from Tony Stark. Pepper, thank God, you finally called me back. If you are still in the company, leave now. Obadiah stole my reactor, and he also secretly made a battle armor. Oh, God! Are you okay? Tony, I mean, what are you going to do without the reactor? Like Tony, Pepper was immediately concerned about the other person's safety. I'm fine. Fortunately, you gave me Stark's heart. I'm fine. I'll rush to the company right now. You leave right away, right now. Oh well. When Pepper knew that Tony was safe and sound, she immediately got up and ran towards the elevator. It's a pity that little Pepper just ran to the door of the company. The asphalt cement blocks on the ground surged. A steel giant more than 3 meters high broke through the ground and emerged from the secret underground research base. OMG! Pepper took a few steps back and looked at Iron Overlord in surprise. Pepper! It's great that you are here, I will send you to join Tony now. Obadiah controlled the Iron Overlord to raise his iron right arm. If Qin Xiao were here now, he would definitely lament the magic of fate. Because even if his arrival changed a lot of things. Even the steel armor was born 2 months earlier than before. But some plots are still the same as what happened in the original movie. It's as if it has been set in advance. It's the same now. Just when Pepper was about to be beaten into a sieve by Gatling on Iron Overlord's right arm, Tony fell from the sky in his suit. Whoosh! The dynamic acceleration directly hit Iron Overlord's head, and broke through the wall with Iron Overlord. They rolled together onto the busy street outside. 2 steel figures, one large and one small, directly penetrated the carriage of a large van on the road. They both rolled to the middle of the road. The sudden appearance of the behemoth blocked a lane. The approaching vehicles suddenly swerved and changed lanes due to the sudden change. I don't know how many surrounding vehicles collided with each other. Some vehicles behind didn't know what was happening in front of them, and they honked their horns frantically. Another car quickly changed lanes to avoid Iron Overlord and Iron Man crossing the road. But the car behind was not so lucky. It was traveling at high speed and the vehicle in front suddenly swerved. After turning, the driver saw a huge steel giant lying in front of him. In panic, he subconsciously stepped on the brakes. Kankin stopped in front of Iron Overlord just moments before he collided with him. There was no time to breathe a sigh of relief. Obadiah controlled the Iron Overlord to get up on the ground. Looking at the station wagon in front of me, I picked up the vehicle. Amidst the screams of the driver in the car, he directly raised the car as a weapon. Concentrate all your energy on your chest. Tony glanced at the people in the car and said quickly. The reactor on his chest suddenly lit up. A laser cannon thicker than the palm of his hand shot out fiercely. He directly knocked Iron Overlord into a roll several times. Then Tony stretched out his hands. Mark II steadily caught the vehicle that was about to land. Chapter 36 Qin Xiao appears. Just put the car on the ground and let him drive away to escape. Obadiah picked up another speeding motorcycle. It doesn't matter whether the unlucky rider on the car will fall to his death directly. Tony hit a motorcycle and knocked over a bus in the lane next to him. Before Tony could get up from the ground, Iron Overlord made a heavy jump and stepped directly on Mark II. Not to mention stepping on him once, he raised his right foot and stepped on him twice. Feel the difference between our powers? Tony. Oh my god! I love this armor. As he spoke, he grabbed Tony with his hand and threw him fiercely towards a bus next to him. The carriage of the bus was as fragile as a thin iron sheet, and it was almost smashed into 2 pieces. Fortunately, just when they started to take action, the bus stopped immediately and all the passengers on the bus ran away. Otherwise, just this one blow might kill many people. Tony knew that there were many people here, and if a fight broke out here, he didn't know how many people would be involved. After getting up, he didn't wait for Obadiah to attack again, and directly used all his energy on power. 4 flames spurted out from the injectors on his hands and feet, taking Mark II straight into the sky. Tony, it looks like you have improved your armor, but unfortunately, I have also made a lot of changes to mine. Following Obadiah's voice, 2 fires with billowing smoke erupted from under the Iron Overlord's feet, pushing Iron Overlord slowly into the air. In terms of speed, the Iron Overlord is definitely no match for the Mark II. But Iron Overlord's reactor is new, and Tony's is not only old, but also doesn't have much energy left. As both sides rose higher and higher in mid-air, Mark II was slowly chased by Iron Overlord. Energy is less than 12%. Energy is less than 9%. Jarvis's voice rang in Tony's ears one after another. Stop talking, show it directly on the screen. Tony said loudly to Jarvis while continuing to fly towards the sky. He was now paying full attention to the height issue, calculating whether he could make the Iron Overlord freeze and fall back to the ground. I can go back safely. Boom! There was a sound of metal colliding. Tony only felt that his rising speed had stalled. It turned out that Iron Overlord had already caught up with him and grabbed the armor's ankle. Damn it! Tony complained, and Iron Overlord pulled him directly into his arms. Two huge palms directly grabbed Tony's armor's neck. It's like an adult holding a baby. But the good news is that ice has begun to appear on Iron Overlord. And the heights of both sides are still rising. Did you see that, Tony? I am stronger than you and more powerful than you. This is the maximum use of the arc reactor. Oh. Then how did you solve the ice problem? The last extreme height was reached by Iron Overlord holding Mark-II. The little energy saved was enough for Tony to barely return to the ground. So Tony was particularly relaxed when he asked this question. What icing problem? Obadiah's mind hadn't even figured out why he was talking about the ice problem. The Iron Overlord, already covered with frost, could no longer hold on. Even the reactor on his chest slowly went out. You should get it checked out. Tony knocked Iron Overlord lightly on the head. The Iron Overlord, who had lost his power, had weakly let go of his hands. It fell rapidly towards the ground. Tony breathed a heavy sigh of relief. The current energy is no longer enough to allow him to fly back to the ground normally. He could only fall freely while using the jet to spray flames from time to time to slow down his landing. After stumbling along the way, I finally broke the guardrail on the rooftop. He fell safely onto the rooftop of the Stark Industries building. It rolled all over the floor, and even the armor on his left hand didn't know where it rolled. Then it completely stopped. Thank God! After muttering, Tony immediately contacted Pepper. Pepper, are you okay? Tony, I'm fine, how are you? Little Pepper just watched Iron Overlord and Tony take off one after another. The huge size difference between the two armors made her extremely worried about Tony's safety. I'm fine, but the battery is out. I have to take off my armor first. Oh! Before he finished speaking, Iron Overlord had already climbed onto the rooftop from behind and punched Tony away. It's a pity that Tony didn't fall to his death as he wished, just like when Tony first froze. He recovered in midair and flew over again. Tony steadied himself in the air and subconsciously raised his left hand to fire the laser cannon. After reaching out his hand, he realized that the armor on his left hand had rolled to nowhere. In desperation, he had to use the remaining energy to help jump to the height of Iron Overlord's head. He punched the Iron Overlord hard on the head. Bang! But that's it. Without enough energy for support, the punch and kick attacks of the Mark II armor are a joke in front of Iron Overlord's thick armor. He stretched out his hands again, this time grabbing the waist of Tony's armor. He was going to crush Tony and his armor just like this. Tony's ability to become Iron Man must be more than just the suit. In such a desperate situation, he did not forget to use his right hand to directly cut off some of the external connecting lines of Iron Overlord. This is one of the shortcomings of Iron Overlord. The entire body of the armor is made of extremely thick pure alloy metal. While giving it powerful defense, it also limits its weapon system to peripherals. Unlike in the movie, Tony didn't have time to damage Iron Overlord's sensing system. When Obadiah reacted, he grabbed his neck and threw him away hard. At this moment, there is absolutely no energy at all. Tony lay on the ground gasping for breath, and Iron Overlord still made a heavy jump and came directly to Tony. It's over, Tony. Bullets could not penetrate Tony's armor shell, so Obadiah chose to use his fists directly. A huge metal fist punched out. Boom! A small, normal human-sized fist appeared. He firmly caught Iron Overlord's punch. After the dull impact sound passed, two huge and incomparable impacts caused a shock wave, spreading towards the surroundings. I think you should buy the furniture for my new house together. What do you think, Tony? Qin Xiao retracted his fist casually, turned to Tony on the ground and said with a smile. Chapter 37 Cutting into Human Sticks. The last video taken by the Shiji gang was taken by a terrorist hiding in a residential building. It was taken after the battle was almost over. Mainly I took pictures of Tony's steel suit. As for Qin Xiao, it was only in the last 2 or 3 seconds that we caught the shot of him smashing the tank. It's a pity that Obadiah was almost done watching the video. When the camera turned, he didn't look down at all. Therefore, Qin Xiao's punch almost made Obadiah's jaw drop in Iron Overlord. This is impossible. Obadiah got the arc reactor as he wished and activated his own invincible Iron Overlord. He also defeated Tony Stark's suit, which was when he felt invincible. He actually had someone block him with a punch, and he looked so thin. This is impossible. Obadiah doubted the authenticity of the punch just now. The energy of the arc reactor on his chest was outputted at full power, and he punched Qin Xiao at full power. Looking at the area alone, this punch could hit almost half of Qin Xiao's body. Come on, bastard! Qin Xiao shouted loudly. He also punched out on the spot. Tony, who was lying on the side, widened his eyes. He had a deep understanding of how powerful the Iron Overlord was. Unexpectedly, Qin Xiao could still catch this punch, which was obviously more than twice as powerful as before. It is clear. Tony still didn't know enough about Qin Xiao. Obviously underestimated the extent of Qin Xiao's shamelessness. Qin Xiao's punch seemed to be full force. But when the two fists were about to intersect, they were obviously heading to the side. Qin Xiao followed the punch and turned around to avoid Iron Overlord's fist range. Boom! Iron Overlord's punch hit the rooftop directly, making a hole. Looking at Qin Xiao again, there was a sinister smile on his face. I don't know when a knife handle appeared in my hand. With a flick of his fingers and a wave of his wrist, a black tang knife with a cold blade was already in his hand. Holding the knife in both hands, he swung it down hard. The sword flashed. The tang dao, which was no thicker than the palm of a hand, cut off the Iron Overlord's armored right arm at the elbow with one strike. Farki. Obadiah didn't know what words to use to describe the shock in his heart. Qin Xiao is not a fool. The first punch was to save Tony. It seemed that he was evenly matched with the Iron Overlord. But after the punch, it was obvious that Qin Xiao's right hand was slightly numb, although it was nothing based on his recovery ability. Then he faced the second punch, which was obviously more than twice as powerful as the first punch. Only a fool would confront him. Iron Overlord's whole body weapon system was destroyed by Tony, leaving only the Gatling gun on his right arm that could still shoot. Now the entire forearm was cut off by Qin Xiao. Idiot! Qin Xiao spit out a classic Chinese adjective. Although the Gatling was not a threat to Qin Xiao at all, but if you don't use the weapon, what is this but a fool? Tony, look how I can cut this guy into a stick. He turned back to Tony and said nonsense. However, he discovered that huge flames began to erupt from Iron Overlord's feet, accompanied by billowing smoke. The weapon system was destroyed, an arm was cut off with a knife, and he punched the Iron Giant Iron Overlord directly with his flesh and blood body. It's all a bit beyond Obadiah's understanding. So while he was talking to Tony, Obadiah started flying and prepared to escape. It's just a pity that the heavy Iron Overlord's initial lift-off acceleration is too slow. Huge flames spurted out, and the whole body slowly rose off the ground. Qin Xiao looked back and was happy. Hey! You didn't even say hello when you left. Look, your jet is also a battle armor. Why are you so unenvironmentally friendly? Come down here. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xiao slashed his sword horizontally, once diagonally, twice. Iron Overlord's thick metal legs are directly separated from the main body. The flames that spurted out did not subside, and rose up to more than 10 meters in a daze, spinning several times in the air before hitting the rooftop heavily. The Iron Overlord's heavy body fell down. Qin Xiao stepped forward and raised the knife again. Iron Overlord's left arm fell to the ground. What a mighty and domineering giant armor! Qin Xiao cut it into a human stick with a few knives. Looking back at Tony, Qin Xiao jumped onto the Iron Overlord's bulging body with a knife in hand. After looking for the connection point, I thought it would be less troublesome. Anyway, this thing is not considered a special alloy according to the system's judgment. Just insert the knife and it's done. Just as he raised the Tang Dao, he heard Tony shouting loudly behind him. Qin! Tony shouted but said nothing. But the meaning couldn't be more obvious. Qin Xiao also looked at Tony and was silent for a long time before saying a word. Do you remember how many graves there are next to Ethan? With just one sentence, Tony turned his face away. Yes, the massacres in the Middle East were certainly committed by terrorists from the Ten Rings gang. But whether it was the provision of weapons, or the kidnapping of Tony that led to the subsequent revenge on Ethan, Obadiah must be included in this heavy blood debt. Tony turned his face away. Qin Xiao did not pause this time and raised the knife in his hand. Obadiah let out a muffled groan in Iron Overlord. Qin Xiao drew the knife out, changed his position and struck again, then shook off the blood and put the Tang knife away. He said he bought an island to retire on, and told me a lot of things like he had figured it out. What a pity! Tony muttered quietly next to him. Okay. I know you can't bear it. Even if he buys the island, it's useless. We in China have a saying, karma is a cycle, retribution is not good. What you owe others must always be repaid. Qin Xiao sat down next to Tony. By the way, why didn't you answer the phone? I was taking a shower, and I didn't know until I finished that I got a call. Jarvis told me that I would be right over. Can you still get up? Yes, but you may need to help me take off my armor. The current armor cannot fall off automatically. It took the two of them a long time to dismantle the armor piece by piece. Tony looked at the Iron Overlord in front of him and said after a moment of silence. This thing can't be kept, and neither can the big guy below. What happens tonight will definitely let everyone know, and these two must be destroyed. Tony was talking about the huge arc reactor prototype below. After Tony's microreactor and armor were exposed together, this large reactor will definitely arouse the covetousness of many forces. Although everyone knows that they are not Tony Stark, they cannot be shrunk by shrinking. But you have to try, right? The temptation of steel armor is too great. How to destroy it? Do you need to push this big guy down? Qin Xiao pointed at Iron Overlord and asked. No. Go down and find Pepper, let's watch the fireworks together. Chapter 38 Expensive Fireworks Show. Iron Overlord's armor and Obadiah's body. Tony took off his Mark-II after a fight. There is also an entire Stark Industries building. All of them were turned into fireworks by Tony using a large arc reactor prototype to make gunpowder. Tony looked at the fireworks and at the little Pepper next to him. There is unconcealable tenderness and admiration in his eyes. After tonight, the sweeper suddenly discovered the importance of little Pepper to him. More than just an assistant for work and life. Only Qin Xiao looked at the burning building. He frowned and mumbled. How much does this fucking cost? Not counting the prototypes, it is impossible to estimate. This building is the Iron Overlord, plus the Mark II, which has only been used once. Qin Xiao originally wanted to take Mark II with him, but Tony told him that it was damaged after use anyway, so he didn't want it anymore. Damn! It's not good to just repair it a little and it will be as good as before. Even if the material on it is made of gold and titanium alloy, it is at the space station level. Qin Xiao still remembered Tony's expression when he said this, no different from ordinary people who want to throw away the bottle after drinking. When he was a kid, his grandmother would keep the bottle after he drank the drink, saying she could sell it for money. This was the way Qin Xiao talked to his grandma when he threw the bottle. Throw it away, keep it to take up space, and you won't be able to sell it for much. He never knew that these words would hit him so hard. Qin Xiao glanced at Tony, who was whispering to Little Pepper in the distance. I was thinking about whether I should rush up and beat him up or something, this big dog. The mission of destroying the Iron Overlord is completed, and the reward points are 1,000. The arrival of 1,000 points made Qin Xiao feel a lot more balanced. Obadiah dies and Tony transforms into Iron Man. Iron Man 1 is over, with a total of 4,000 points earned. We are one step closer to opening the secondary mall. Now for Qin Xiao, the first level mall is of little use, and there seems to be nothing to spend 3,000 points on. No, 3,000 points, if you travel back in time, 1 point can be exchanged for 1 million. 100 million. Qin Xiao clasped his fingers and began to calculate whether he could become a wealthy businessman when he returned. After a long calculation, 3 billion is a big player, but compared with Tony. Well, Qin Xiao gave up. The plot has come to an end, and the system prompts Qin Xiao to return to his world at any time. At the beginning, Qin Xiao originally planned to complete the mission here, and then exchange everything he obtained here for his own resources. Whether it's your own strength, or some high-tech technology, or even the system is very considerate and provides 1 point to exchange for 1 million currencies. All for the sake of a better life in that world. Although they are all time travel, for Qin Xiao, that is real life. This is more like a copy, a game. But just after crossing Qin Xiao, he directly entered the Marvel movie world, where he met Black Widow and joined SHIELD, although the title of this agent was a bit watery. He also became good friends with Tony, and now Qin Xiao has a stronger sense of identification with this place. And now that his own strength has undergone earth-shaking changes, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a Superman. What else can I do in this Marvel movie world, if I return to that world? If you can't help it, you have to hold on to your own strength. After all, one person can't deal with the whole world, and he might be sliced up and used as a guinea pig for research. Qin Xiao doesn't think that with Hulk's 30% strength, he will be invincible and fearless. This is why from the beginning, he insisted on getting Tony's artificial intelligence program by buying a house. It is precisely to establish his own powerful kingdom in that world, which can also ensure a stable life in the future. Only when the financial power in your hands reaches a certain level can you live without fear. A huge explosion in a Stark Industries building is no small thing. What's more, Tony and Iron Overlord had a huge fight on the road. There were countless people who saw 2 sets of armors flying directly into the sky. Since today's events cannot be concealed, we must make reasonable use of S.H.I.E.L.D. Otherwise, we will be sorry for our status as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. So as soon as the fireworks show started, Qin Xiao called Coulson. After all, wiping out these things is the specialty of every intelligence agency, isn't it? So that night, Qin Xiao and Tony went home to sleep. Coulson is the one who leads S.H.I.E.L.D., controlling online public opinion and looking at how many videos are uploaded online. You still have to come up with a reasonable reason within one night, a reason that the public can believe. I don't know if Coulson didn't sleep all night, but it was early the next morning, and it was just dawn. Qin Xiao was woken up by the phone call. Coulson, damn! Did you forget to check the time? Even the chickens on the farm haven't gotten up yet? Do you know that lack of sleep can cause hair loss, you damn bastard? Qin Xiao answered the phone and roared. Mother fake! Coulson, an honest man, was so stunned that he almost ran away angry at Qin Xiao's words. Aren't you scolding a bald man in front of a monk? It's you who caused the trouble, maybe it's you who let me wipe your ass. What's wrong with asking you to go to the scene and help me now? In terms of organization, you can be considered my subordinate after all. Coulson himself didn't sleep all night, and he touched his hairline that felt like it was moving back a little bit again. He desperately suppressed the urge to draw his gun and kill Qin Xiao. To be honest, if this was really an ordinary agent, Coulson wouldn't mind giving him a good education on how to behave. But as Nick Fury's #1 confidant, he knows about the existence of the Avengers plan. We also know Nick Fury's purpose of recruiting Qin Xiao into SHIELD. So I could only hold back my anger, but still gritted my teeth and said, "I've been busy all night just to wipe your butt. Shouldn't you come over and help me, Mr. Trainee Agent?" Haha. Even if your hair falls out a little more, it won't be noticeable. It doesn't matter. I'm still young and I need enough sleep. Qin Xiao's anger subsided a little when he got up, and he laughed and interrupted. Although his mouth was still rude, he still started to get up. Although it is one of their jobs to do these things to fool the public. But what happened last night was indeed caused by him, if it hadn't been for his initial request. When Tony Stark comes back, S.H.I.E.L.D. will take Obadiah away directly. How come there are so many things happening behind? Chapter 39 I Am Iron Man. As long as you follow what you said above, even if some media don't believe it, they won't be able to stir up too much public opinion. We are very familiar with this matter and know how to make it disappear from the public eye. Coulson said, handing over a note. And your alibi? You were on a yacht at the time. As for Obadiah, he will die in a private plane crash a week later. Tony was holding the newspaper and reading today's front page. The headline above was "Who is Iron Man?" Iron Man is a really good name. Although my armor shell is made of gold and titanium alloy, it still fits the title. I like this nickname. Tony commented to the newspaper. When Pepper saw that Tony didn't answer Coulson's words, she turned to Coulson and said, "Thank you. Otherwise we wouldn't know how to explain to the media today. Thank you very much for everything you have done. It's okay. This is our responsibility. What's more, one of our trainee agents is also very involved in this matter. This is also considered an internal matter for us." It was rare for Coulson to tease Qin Xiao. At this moment, Qin Xiao was standing aside in a black suit, looking like a qualified agent or security guard. Yes, this guy is the instigator of this incident. He should be allowed to explain to the media today. Tony pointed at Qin Xiao who was standing aside and said angrily. Also, you'd better pay attention to your identity. Mr. Instigator, you should go out and maintain order among the reporters in the way you are dressed today. I know, Mr. Stark. Qin Xiao answered quite professionally, raised the sunglasses on his nose, turned around and went out, looking like a professional agent. This surprised Tony quite a bit. What did you do to him? To make this guy suddenly become so obedient, didn't you use some brainwashing tool on him? Tony pointed at Qin Xiao and joked. Our boss threatened him that if he doesn't cooperate with my work well today, he will stop his monthly salary. You know, this guy recently bought a nice apartment, so he probably doesn't have much money anymore. Coulson smiled brightly. The last time the incident in the Middle East was shattered in front of these two guys. Although Qin Xiao offered to help this morning, if it weren't for Nick Fury's call, Qin Xiao would never have been so obedient. To be honest, commanding this guy is quite fulfilling. After everything was prepared, Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes outside had been talking nonsense in front of reporters for half an hour. Tony opened his hands and let Pepper help him put on his coat. Looking at the sweet and charming little Pepper in front of him, Tony suddenly felt that he had been ignoring the girl next to him. What's the Chinese proverb that Guy Qin Xiao said to me? Rabbits don't eat the grass next to their holes. To hell with it, it must be because the grass next to the rabbit hole isn't inviting enough. He coughed slightly and glanced again at little Pepper, who was arranging his clothes. Tony still felt that it would be more appropriate to change the situation. Coulson had given Rhodes the signal. Rhodes outside also had enough nonsense and spoke directly. Now, Mr. Stark has prepared a statement, but he will not be taking any questions today, thank you everyone. Tony came on stage to thunderous cheers. There is no reporter who doesn't like Tony Stark. Of course, it's not because he is more popular, it's just that there is enough news about this guy and it is shocking enough. Tony looked at the reporters below, and then glanced at Qin Xiao, who was standing in the corner without saying a word. Giving him a provocative look, Qin Xiao quietly raised a middle finger towards Tony. Pfft! Tony couldn't help but burst into laughter, then coughed twice awkwardly and said, "It's been a long time since I've seen you. I've prepared a manuscript today." He took out the so-called official statement prepared by Coulson and others from his pocket. "About the rumors from the outside world, it is said that I was involved in last night's." "I'm sorry, Mr. Stark, do you really expect us to believe such nonsense about a bodyguard wearing a suit?" A female reporter interrupted Tony directly. Not only did Tony know this female reporter, she also had a one-night stand with her. She has been dedicated to reporting on the Stark Group's arms sales to outside terrorists. Calling Tony Stark an executioner. Tony hesitated, even though he had agreed not to answer any questions today. But he couldn't help but pointed at Qin Xiao beside him and said, "Yes, a bodyguard did appear wearing a battle armor, and he is right here. It's that guy. Did you see it? The Oriental boy wearing sunglasses to look cool, that was him last night." Following the direction of Tony's finger, all the flashlights in the audience were focused on Qin Xiao. "Farky!" Qin Xiao was caught off guard and could only mutter a curse word. He looked at a group of reporters aiming long and short guns at him. Qin Xiao showed a rather stylized smile, stretched out his right hand and made a gesture near his chin. The question that everyone is most concerned about at today's press conference is who is Iron Man. Now that Tony Stark has spoken, Qin Xiao has become the subject of reporters' interviews, regardless of whether what he said is true or false. The only female reporter in the audience was still sitting firmly in the front row without moving. Looking at Tony Stark, he said calmly, "He's the man in the armor, okay, Mr. Stark, so who is this man wielding the narrow sword?" The female reporter casually took out a laptop from under her seat and clicked on a video. This is a picture taken with a night scene camera. Although the color looks a little distorted, the picture is not particularly clear. But you can clearly see Qin Xiao wielding the Tang Dao and cutting off the lower limbs of the Iron Overlord who was about to rise. And it can be clearly seen that that person is Qin Xiao. Instead, it is Tony in the corner of the screen, although the helmet of the suit has fallen off. But because he tilted his head and the picture was not clear enough, he could only vaguely see that he was a white man. This time, the whole audience was in an uproar again. No one thought why someone filmed the fight scene on the rooftop at the end. The female reporter wore a victorious smile, waiting for Tony Stark's explanation. She has been investigating Tony Stark for a long time, his love history, and his company. In order to obtain first-hand information, she even bribed the security captain of an office building on another street. Not only were he equipped with cameras that can shoot in various situations and tools for remote video shooting, he also specifically told him that if the lights on the top floor of the Stark Industries building opposite came on at night, he would go up and aim at the occupied room and start shooting. It was a coincidence that last night, the security guard saw Tony and Iron Overlord flying in the air on the road. But he thought it was an alien, so he quickly took the equipment and ran to the rooftop to catch it. When I arrived on the rooftop, I couldn't find it. Who knew that it would fall from the sky to the rooftop of Stark Industries not long after? After he was busy setting up the equipment, he figured out how to turn on the night vision function for shooting. It came to the scene where Qin Xiao cut off the Iron Overlord's foot with one knife. Fortunately, he was not professional enough in using these things. He only took a clear picture of Qin Xiao's appearance. The picture of Tony in the corner was not very clear due to the angle and focus. Although the Iron Man's appearance was not clearly captured, it is enough for now. The female reporter wanted to see how Tony Stark would deny this matter. Unexpectedly, Tony on the stage was silent for a moment, then threw the manuscript in his hand on the table. He admitted. Let me correct you, that one is called Tang Dao. Also, you guessed it right, I am Iron Man. Tony also made a scissor hand gesture to the camera. Chapter 40 Scandals and Parties. The headlines in almost every newspaper the next day were two men making scissor hand gestures. One is a young and handsome Oriental, and the other is the playboy Tony Stark. The headlines of the news are generally divided into two types. Tony Stark transforms into Iron Man and joins forces with the young Eastern warriors to defeat the evil Iron Overlord. Or, Tony Stark and Eastern Boy, two newly born superheroes come out together. The two scissor hands are also said to be a couple's gesture to show off their affection in front of the media. Compared to the first one, the second one is obviously more popular among gossips. And compared to Westerners' aesthetics, Qin Xiao does seem a bit more delicate. Although she can't be said to be girly, she has good skin and a delicate and fair face. Throwing her into prison will definitely cause a lot of perverted gangsters to rob her. Even Chili Pepper, who saw the two photos of the two of them making scissor hands side by side in the newspaper, joked that Tony and Qin Xiao looked quite good together. These damn media, I should go and burn down their TV station. They just told me that I came out as gay, but they actually said that I was a petty victim. I am a straight man, my little one. Is your cock harder than my knife? Qin Xiao angrily pointed at a talk show host on the TV who was happily telling the ambiguous story of Tony Stark and Qin Xiao. Where's your legal team? Lend me your help. I'm going to sue them for defamation. This is naked defamation. Qin Xiao slapped the armrest of the sofa loudly. Tony rolled his eyes at him and continued to type rapidly on the computer with his hands. Obadiah is dead, and there are a lot of things to deal with within the company. Although a professional team has been found, Tony must come up with some decent products without the weapons. He is currently designing a renewable energy source based on the arc reactor principle, and has also rarely moved his work location from the garage of the mansion to the company office. You know, some old shareholders still need to be comforted by him personally when they are dissatisfied. After all, the name Stark is a golden sign. Tony doesn't care much about what outsiders say, especially about the scandal between him and Qin Xiao, although he is not very satisfied with some media misrepresenting his sexual orientation. But compared to appreciating Qin Xiao's anger, Tony felt that it was worth the price of admission. Seeing that Tony ignored him at all, Qin Xiao looked at Coulson, who had just entered the office. Didn't you say you would wipe my ass clean? You didn't see that these news seriously insulted my ass. This is a country of free speech. You know, we have tried our best to excuse Obadiah's death. You know, your behavior in the video cannot be regarded as self-defense. Coulson was talking about the video of Qin Xiao being secretly filmed. Iron Overlord obviously had no ability to resist, but Qin Xiao still stabbed him to death without hesitation. Strictly speaking, this is an over-defense. Then why did you come to me? You didn't tell me to go to work, did you? Qin Xiao knew that Coulson would never go to the Three Treasures Palace for anything. Originally, he had thought about starting his return directly in the past few days, but based on his house, it would still take a few days. He still thought about waiting for the house to be completed and copying the smart program Tony gave him for the house before leaving. The boss wants to see you too, so I'll make an appointment with you. Nick Fury wants to meet them both, of course. The main reason is for the Avengers project. Qin Xiao's abilities have been analyzed by S.H.I.E.L.D. and far exceed those of so-called super soldiers. Needless to say, Tony Stark's armor is simply a weapon that spans the ages. Especially everyone knows the genius of Tony Stark. Strictly speaking, this is the first-generation product. Who knows how powerful it will become in the future? You know, Jarvis, the junior artificial intelligence, is no secret. A miniature arc reactor and steel armor, if equipped with an artificial intelligence command. Coupled with Tony Stark's terrifying financial resources, he alone is a terrifying steel group. After making an appointment to meet 2 days later, Carlson left in a hurry. Qin Xiao, on the other hand, knew that his house would be completed in about a week. Nodding with satisfaction, and just about to turn around and leave, Tony didn't know what he thought of. He suddenly raised his head and said, "By the way, there is a party tomorrow night. You know, I have become Iron Man. There are always some friends who want to celebrate together. There are always some boring rich people, right? More importantly, there are many model beauty. How are you? Do you want to come? There are so many beauties that no one would be a fool not to go there, and the Black Widow has been missing for a long time, and you can't find anyone to harass her." When Qin Xiao first came to this world, he had a plan to pick up a big yangma with a bulging front and a bulging back. Unfortunately, it always revolved around the plot of Iron Man. "I don't have much chance. I finally have a party now. It would be weird if I didn't go." The party was held on the rooftop of a hotel. There are many rooftop party venues like this throughout Los Angeles. Almost every decent hotel has turned its rooftop into a party venue. After all, this is Los Angeles. Among other things, there are many wealthy stars and even film and television tycoons in Hollywood. Partying is an essential daily activity. Tony has attended and hosted this kind of party countless times in his life. But for Qin Xiao, this was the first time that Grandma Lu entered the Grand View Garden. Dynamic music, crazy DJ, professional bartender, infinity swimming pool. The most important thing is that the entire rooftop is filled with girls of various skin colors with big breasts and long legs. Qin Xiao even saw a few second and third-tier sexy actresses who often appeared on the big screen. "This is called a party, this is life, Tony. You should have brought me to a place like this a long time ago, you know? You should have come a long time ago." The appearance of the two people was definitely a focus for the scene. The most popular newsmakers right now are not politicians or big stars, but Tony Stark and Qin Xiao, a Chinese who seems very mysterious to the outside world. Listening to Qin Xiao's excited voice next to him, Tony smiled slightly. He directly pushed Qin Xiao into the crowd. "Girls, whoever conquers this little bison tonight, I will personally give her a new sports car." Tony's words immediately set off a climax around him. Nowadays, many girls are new actors wandering around Hollywood, let alone Tony Stark's awards. Just having some scandal with this Oriental boy can create a lot of news and heat. Not to mention that he and Tony Stark are the latest two superheroes after Captain America. As for his affair with Tony Stark, no one cares whether it's true or not. Something happened today, so I'm late in updating, so I'll upload the first chapter first, and there will be 2 more chapters tonight. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.